get a submission. I haven't listened to it yet because I want to do it on the air. And so maybe later on in today's show, our friend, the great Chris Eric, sent me a potential new show open. This one didn't get us booted on Friday that I'm aware of. I think we were clear on this one, but it just still feels empty because I'm just so used to. I associate this music with the booming baritone of one Kyle Ottenheimer. And unless he wants to record something for us that we could air as part of it, it just doesn't. I sit here, I hear it, and I'm waiting to hear, and now, which is always the one part of the day that I could look forward to with Kyle. Like, after that, it would just be him spouting nonsense about, dude, the Browns are going to win 6 games next year.
Well, now they might.
I don't know, maybe. Maybe
they should be able to stumble into 6 now.
They still need a quarterback.
Yeah, but they got probably the best player.
I understand that.
Quarterback.
They need a quarterback. That's the way that this league works.
Yeah, but they got the one guy.
Again, you keep saying that. You still need a quarterback. Anyway, the moral of the story being,
I think 6 wins isn't preposterous.
I have no idea. But at the time it was, they won 0. They won 6 fewer. 6 fewer. None was the number of games that they won the year that he was going on about how they were going to win 6. The point of all of this is, we'll listen later on in the program and we'll see if maybe we have a new show open from our buddy Chris Erich. Hi, Monday edition of Glenn Clark Radio. I'm going to be honest with you guys for a second and a little bit vulnerable in the process. I'm in a weird place today. I woke up this morning and I think I might have vertigo.
Oh.
Not great. Just don't. It's either that or I'm dizzy for other reasons. I don't know what those reasons would be. I'm sitting down, so right now I feel like I'm fine.
Okay.
When I've been sitting. My wife was like, can you drive a car? I'm like, well, I'm sitting, so I think I'm okay when you're sitting. Maybe you're not supposed to, and maybe there's going to be somebody who's like, what are you doing? I woke up, and as soon as I stood up, I started falling.
Oh.
And then I stumbled into the bathroom. I said, this isn't good. Not great. But I also don't have the luxury right now of, like, I have maybe the busiest week of my year coming up. So I don't really have the luxury of doing anything other than just trying to push through it. So if anything goes awry this morning, I'm just going to blame it on vertigo, whether I have it or not.
Do I
Whatever's
need to be
going
ready
on.
to react to something? Or,
What do you mean?
I don't know. Like, are you going to pass out? Like, what's
no, vertigo's just like, I think just dizziness for the most part. I mean,
it won't, like, knock you out?
I've never dealt with it before, Griffin.
Neither have
I've never,
so
this phenomenon
I'm kind of scared now.
that I had happen to me this morning is new. My wife was like, you got to go to a doctor because, my wife has a brain. I, on the other hand, am just like, no, I have to go do. There are like 12 people that want to know how I feel about Baltimore sports topics on the internet, and I have to go do that.
Sometimes up to 15.
She said, what is our life? She said, what is this? Explain this to me. And I'm like, I can't. So I really don't know. I don't know. But my point is, anything that goes amiss this morning, it's just blame that. Not my fault. It's the vertigo talking. Got it? We're in this together, people.
All right.
Thank you. I appreciate
So wait, are you
that.
trying to say that you have a pass to say whatever you want now?
More or less.
Like you're going to say the Browns going to win 6 games now?
I might get really froggy.
And you're thinking that's going to be that's good enough defense.
Might get really froggy. All right, coming up on the program, Buster Olney is going to join us around 10:30. He was in Sarasota last week, back in the good times. Back in the olden
whole
days.
7 days ago?
The olden days when there was joy and happiness, and
There's
so
nobody officially on the IL.
Yeah, we'll talk to him about Grayson Rodriguez being shut down, and
This Tyler O'Neill should be okay though.
Thank you. Great.
That's what they said.
Great. And obviously the big news right now in baseball is related to the Yankees. So then we'll ask if the Orioles, if they're interested in trying to acquire a pitcher, how much competition they now have.
Now in a bidding war.
Yeah, for that pitching because. Garrett Cole also headed to Tommy John. Hopefully they're being on the up and up about Grayson Rodriguez. Hopefully that's the case, and it really is just shut down for 7 to 10 days, and they ramp him back up, and somewhere in April perhaps he would be ready at that point. I hope. Fingers not going the whole deal. Chris Broussard, our buddy, Fox Sports 1, he's going to join us. He's got an event coming up down in PG County this week. He'll tell us about that. We'll talk some Ravens, get his thoughts on bringing back Ronnie Stanley. Jeremy Conn will join us this morning as well. A lot going on. Hope you're following along. Facebook.com/PressBoxSports and every day at PressBoxOnline.com. Stan the Fan Charles, Luke Jackson are down in Sarasota. Their coverage of spring training is brought to you by HelpMyGamblingProblem.org, as well as Costas Inn, Easy Pass, and Live Casino and Hotel. And we'll be checking in with them throughout the course of the week. I don't even know where to start necessarily. You want to start at college basketball? Good news for most everybody. UMBC lost, but we're not surprised by that. That was probably going to be the case as they fell on the road at Bryant in the quarterfinals. But otherwise, a fruitful weekend. Towson made it interesting yesterday, but they survived Drexel.
Dylan Williams, unconscious.
Career high. Was it 32?
Yeah, 7 for 10 from 3.
They march on. They play tonight, 6 o'clock, down in D.C. against Delaware, who was a stunning winner in the quarterfinal round of the CAA tournament. So one more Towson-Delaware game before Delaware runs away like the cowards they are.
Well, that's true.
Yeah, that's tonight at 6. And then Wilmington cruised. College of Charleston had to survive Monmouth in overtime last night. But that's the other, as expected, the other semifinal in the CAA. In the Patriot League, a bit of a stunner as Navy goes on the road to Bucknell yesterday and wins in the semifinals. And so that sets up Navy and American for the Patriot League title and berth in the NCAA tournament. That'll be Wednesday night down in D.C. Of course, our old friend Dwayne Simpkins. This one's tough for me because Dwayne was one of my favorites. Legendary former Terp and just all-around good guy. Lots of stops as an assistant coach. Finally gets his shot as a head coach and is proving why maybe it shouldn't have taken so long. But congratulations to Navy. That was a really solid win for them at Bucknell yesterday, and now they are one win away from going to the NCAA tournament. And, of course, for Maryland, a senior day win over Northwestern. It wasn't pretty in the first half. It was.
Is it ever?
Yeah, that's a fair point.
Yeah.
It was just a weird, I don't know. It just felt like a slog for Maryland in the first half, but ultimately they got their act together late in the first half and then pulled away in the second and got some great scenes as they got to pull Juju Reese off the floor late, and he got an ovation from the crowd. And they got Ben Murphy, the walk-on from Reisterstown, into the game on his senior day. So great scenes there combined with other results this weekend. We now know Maryland will be the 2 seed in the Big Ten tournament and will play on Friday night at 6:30, I believe, is when that will tip. So that's the picture. The Maryland women lost.
Yeah,
that was a really weird game. They were on the wrong end of a 21-0 run against Michigan, and then all of a sudden it went the exact opposite way. Maryland went on like a 17-1 run. And we were like, what is this game? But they lost in the quarterfinals. The Big Ten women's tournament might cost them a top 4 seed and the ability to host. Yeah, in the first 2 rounds.
They wanted rest. I think that was what it was part of.
Yes.
They wanted the extra rest.
Yes. Yeah, sure. We'll go with that.
Yeah.
That's what we'll go with. So there's the college basketball of it all. We'll get it out of the way. As we mentioned, Ronnie Stanley, nothing but a good thing. Don't need nothing but a good thing. I mean, that's it. I'll write about it today at PressBoxOnline.com. We spent a lot of time considering the alternative last year, but the alternative never actually made sense. The alternative was, if it had gone a different way, then it would have made sense, or it would have been perhaps necessary for the Ravens to say we need to part ways with Ronnie Stanley and move Roger Rosengarten over, but it was never desirable. You can say that last year their decision to move on from 3/5 of their offensive line starters wasn't desirable either, but you could at least sort of see a plan. You could see the idea of, hey, look, it's 2 guards, it's the right tackle, it's the 3 least important spots. You know, we want to get a little bit younger. John Simpson got kind of wildly overpaid in free agency. They weren't going to be doing anything with that. You could understand, to some extent, those decisions. I think a lot of us were I think Morgan Moses was the one that most of us were like, no, and Zeitler was the one. Zeitler was the one we were like, dude, that guy looks like he still has good football in him. What are we doing? But they got younger, and that was the idea. Let's get younger, and let's build future continuity along the offensive line. Well, the only way to do that is to make sure that you have your anchors. And if Ronnie Stanley had gone through a season where he only played 6 games this year and where the ankle continued to be an issue, then they might have had no choice. But that's not what happened. He played 17 games. He played remarkably well. And there's just no world where it makes sense to choose that type of upheaval. I think it's very clear based on the deal that he signed that the exact scenario that we played out. The Ravens went to the Combine thinking the deal was essentially done. Now, given the fact that Alaric Jackson got 19 per year and Ronnie Stanley ultimately got 20, it looks pretty clear that Alaric Jackson was what caused the snag in this process. The Jackson deal gets done, and whatever it was the Ravens were working on with Ronnie Stanley, the number now becomes, well, we've got to do better than Alaric Jackson did. So it is. Is $20 million beyond what the Ravens maybe wanted to do? Perhaps. But the market almost feels like it was going to go past $20 million. The sense that I got around the league was that there were a few teams that were ready to throw it all towards Ronnie Stanley, that would have been willing to pay the franchise tag price for Ronnie Stanley. There are a dearth of good players available in free agency. It is not a strong free agent class. Part of that maybe is the amount of new money that came into the cap that allowed a lot of teams to get back their guys. Part of that is just football. There was the purposely obtuse tweet that Bill Simmons sent this weekend that got some attention, and I regret the fact that I retweeted it because I am fully out on Bill Simmons. I've been for a long time, but he's gone into useful idiot territory, like if he's just playing a character now, where he's like, oh, I guess this proves the salary cap isn't real. No, what proves the salary cap isn't real is the Ravens aren't going to be able to pay Patrick McCary. They're not letting Patrick McCary go because they don't want to have Patrick McCary. To be abundantly clear, he's not a star, but if it was as simple as yes or no, you said to the Ravens, would you like Patrick McCary to be your left guard next season? The answer would be yes, 100%. But that's not an option because they said we need Ronnie Stanley more than we need Patrick McCary. So they prioritized and said, come hell or high water, we're getting Ronnie Stanley back. But the proof that the cap is real is the fact that Patrick McCary now becomes available. The bummer for teams like the New England Patriots is they also don't think that Patrick McCary is as good or as critical as Ronnie Stanley is, which is why the Ravens prioritized Ronnie Stanley. The cap is real. It's, if you want to say real-ish or real in quotes, whatever you want to say, because as always, there's always things that you can do to try to create cap space based on the willingness of the team to do them, then you can say that. There's an element of truth to it. But you don't just get to have all of the players that you want. And requires you, if you're a team that has cap space, that found yourself saying, and if that's really what happened to Patriots fans, is like, oh, look at all this cap space we have. We're going to be great. No, it requires you to take risks because we know this is how the NFL works. The really good players don't go to free agency, the top of the top. The teams say, we're not going to let that happen. So you've got to figure out what the risks are that are worth taking. The Ravens a year ago saw a running back market that was depleted and said, we can take advantage of that. So did another team. That was a risk worth taking. We'll find out right now. Like the Commanders had a boatload of cap space. They threw it, part of it, at Deebo Samuel. And we can question that strategy. Deebo Samuel has not been the guy that we thought he was for the last few years. But to them, it's a risk worth taking. We need something at wide receiver. Maybe at a low trade value.
And they have a quarterback on a rookie deal.
Correct.
Right? Yeah.
Maybe, and they have all this cap space. Maybe we can get something out of it. It's a risk. It is absolutely not a slam dunk that Deebo Samuel is going to be a quality player for the Washington Commanders. But you have to take risks when you have cap space. Because the cap space this is not Major League Baseball where you're just going to be able to go get Shohei Ohtani or Juan Soto. Now, we got the most money, so we can have them. It does not work that way. The Ravens said, this guy's good. We're going to keep him around. Yeah, that checks out. That makes sense. I don't really know what else there is to say, although I'm going to try to say 700 words about it at PressBoxOnline.com. It's just, sometimes it's that simple. Sometimes we want to overanalyze. And look, we'll say things like, well, if he goes right back to being hurt, the Ravens will regret this. Yes, same for every other player in the NFL.
If they draft a tackle in the first round and he never gets on the field.
Correct.
Yeah.
This is the way that it works. And we do this thing where we assume we just decide that guys are chronically hurt. And look, I'm as guilty of this as anyone. I'm dealing with this with Grayson Rodriguez right now. I'm like, it just feels like it's always something. But it's in context. I know he's not always hurt. It just feels like this parade of issues is what's going to prevent him from being the elevated guy, the number one guy that we thought he was. It's not, this is why Grayson Rodriguez stinks and you can't have him on your team. Once upon a time, we said idiotic, insane things about Lamar Jackson's health. And people sat here and said to me with a straight face, maybe they just go with Derek Carr. Because you can't pay Lamar Jackson like that. He's always hurt. We just say these things like this isn't football we're talking about. It is baked into the cake. Guys get hurt. They're going to get hurt. They're going to be hurt. At some point, certain players never recover. Michael Thomas would be a good example of that, right? Like truly great talent, but never able to overcome those injuries. What we're seeing is kind of the exact opposite of if Ronnie Stanley had played 7 total games over the last 2 seasons, I don't think we're doing this. I don't mean we as in I'm part of the Ravens. I mean, I don't think we're having this conversation. But he didn't do that. That stretch was in 2020 and 2021.
He got better and he got healthier.
Played more games. Now, does that guarantee that he's going to play all of the games or most of the games? Not at all. No one can guarantee that. As we know, it's got to be your bull. Get a good look at a T-bone, the whole thing. I understand. Sticking that head right up that butcher's ass. But it's got to be your bull. I can't guarantee anything. But it 1,000% makes sense. And to say, well, this cost them any ability they would have to go out and get like a top-notch edge rusher. Who?
Myles Garrett.
Well, I don't know if you heard. You get the papers still. Who is that? Because that player is not available in free agency. The top of the list is Khalil Mack. And when we had that conversation a couple weeks ago, you all were like, Khalil Mack. All of a sudden, we're going to go back to falling in love with Joey Bosa. Somebody calling the radio station about that yesterday. Like, dude, I get it. You remember his name. Have you paid attention to Joey Bosa recently? You have Joey Bosa. And the crazy part is, like, as I've said before, if Joey Bosa didn't want money, by all means. But there's so few players available that I presume that Joey Bosa is still going to get real money. You think the Bengals are trading Trey Hendrickson to Baltimore? The team, they've got to get past.
When they run out of options, yeah.
Trust me, dog, I want a top-notch edge rusher, but that guy ain't available. To me, and I know that they're going to draft a cornerback. I understand that. I've paid attention to this team for long enough that I know how this works.
Especially after what another team in the division probably.
Yes, they're drafting a cornerback. Yeah, to go after DK Metcalf, I guess. They're drafting a cornerback. But to me, if you're going to find that edge rusher, you're going to have to keep trying to swing for him in the draft. It's just the way it comes off to me. Or hope that what you saw from Odafe Oweh last year really was the moment where he's going to become that guy for you, whatever it is. I want that guy too. But there's just not stuff to spend the money on in free agency. It just doesn't. What's out there is out there. If you want to say, hey, they could have used, it's real weird that the Rams were, they have 2 wide receivers as well, but they went and got Devontae Adams. Well, part of that is we think they're going to try to move Cooper Kupp. We're pretty sure they're going to try to get rid of Cooper Kupp.
But they also said Stafford's going to be seeking a trade, and then they got his deal done.
It's fair, right? Like, it's fair. You sense that that's part of the. Otherwise, I have no idea what they're doing. I really don't know what they're doing. All that to say, Ronnie Stanley was the move, and probably is going to be the story of free agency for the Baltimore Ravens. This almost certainly will be a quiet week. Doesn't mean silent, but quiet. And you might say to yourself, yeah, well, it always is. Like, that's just the way that it works around here. Well, the last couple of years have shown the likes of Marcus Williams being an early signing, and Derrick Henry obviously last year. And I can't guarantee the Ravens won't sign anybody this week. I think the next most interesting scenario for the Ravens remains internal. It's Pat Ricard, who is going to go to the market, and that probably was the plan all along. Go to the market, find out what the market says, and then we'll go from there. That they need someone to set the market for Pat Ricard. And if there's a real offer, and again, it's easy for us to say, well, teams don't even use fullbacks. There are just so few good players available in free agency. Plenty of guys are going to get money. Plenty of them are. But it's going to be a bunch of middle-of-the-road guys who are going to get top that dollar because these teams have to spend it on someone. There was a tweet from somebody this morning about how much Dan Moore is in demand, the Steelers' offensive lineman. Okay.
Feels good to get Ronnie done.
Yeah, it's why it's just such a no-brainer on Ronnie Stanley. Pat Ricard might very well have a team that wants to spend money on him, and the Ravens might find themselves in a place where they say, dude, we love this guy, but we just can't justify spending that type of money on a fullback. And that would suck. I would hate that, but I would hope they would just go find their next Pat Ricard if that's the case. I hope it works out. I think that, to me, is probably the biggest. I think the McCary thing is fait accompli. Brandon Stevens was never coming. I mean, Brandon Stevens would come back and say, I think I'm willing to pay for $500,000, and they might be like, let me think about it. We'll get back to you. I mean, he was just never coming back. And there's no one else. I mean, Tylan Wallace, among the free I'm trying to think of who else is even significant among the free agents. Like, if there's a world, I don't know that they'd be opposed to bringing Tylan Wallace back, but, and particularly given how little depth they have at wide receiver, at least somebody who's been there, has made some big plays. I'm not opposed to the idea. They got to do something. They have to bring in wide receiver depth. They have to. That's got to be a priority for this team. And it's a difficult thing to say because, like, they have bigger fish to fry. Like, they definitely have to find secondary help. They probably need a little bit more interior line help. McCary's going to be gone. And you can say, hey, that'll be Andrew. They're going to, likely right. they default to Andrew Voorhees again. But they're also Ben Cleveland's going to be gone for sure. They're going to need depth, if nothing else. Even if they're comfortable with their 2 starters, with Faalele on one side and Voorhees on the other side, then they're going to need depth there. And I still think that they'd be willing to listen, like they maybe create a competition for at least one of those guard spots. But wide receiver depth has to be on the list as well. Free agency doesn't officially begin until later in the week, but it really begins today at noon. And you might laugh at that and chuckle and say, it begins today at noon? Have you been paying attention the last couple of days? It's been sort of a dizzying, a whirlwind. DK Metcalf to Pittsburgh is interesting, but they don't have a quarterback. So, like, I'm not really sure what to say about it. And there's no scenario where I find myself saying, boy, that makes DK Metcalf plus this available quarterback concerns me. If they get into the Sam Darnold sweepstakes, to me, that's kind of a best-case scenario because they're going to have to pay, like, real money. Sam Darnold is the best free agent quarterback available. They would have to pay real money and make a real multi-year commitment to a guy that most of us think is probably was swimming over his head last year. And while you would say, well, he'd have a good situation with Pickens and Metcalf, he had a better situation in Minnesota.
With Kevin O'Connell and, the best receiver in football.
Better. That was the best case scenario to me. And playing games indoors. And check. I do not fear Sam Darnold, Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback, even adding DK Metcalf to George Pickens. And I'm still not sure if they don't try to move George Pickens just because he's mercurial. But even if they do hold on to both of them, there's no fear there to me. Sam Darnold is kind of a best case scenario because, again, there'd be a multi-year commitment, and I don't think there's a higher end. They could, the first thing I thought is they're doing this because they've decided they're going to throw their hat into the Aaron Rodgers circus. There's been some reporting that might well be true. I don't think that works, but God love him. God love him. Go right for it. It's just nothing out there that makes me say this is why I would fear the Pittsburgh Steelers, which doesn't mean that they can't win games. They've won games with no quarterbacks. But nothing that would make me say this is going to change their reality for trying to compete to win the AFC. And, Myles Garrett back to Cleveland. God love him. He cared about winning right up until somebody said,
"You're the highest paid."
How does $120+ million sound? And you're like, well, winning's fun, I guess, but that could be even better.
Or they promised him winning as well.
Yeah, sure.
This could be their year.
When we come back in, Buster Olney is going to join us. We'll switch gears. We'll talk Orioles. So much going on. We'll find out his thoughts on Grayson Rodriguez and more when we come back in. It's Glenn Clark Radio.
Driving in Maryland? Did you know an Easy Pass from DriveEasyMD.com can save you time and money? Of course you did, because you are a thrifty driver. An antenna reads your Easy Pass transponder and automatically deducts the toll from your Easy Pass account. There, you just saved money with Easy Pass, all without slowing or receiving a notice in the mail. Well done, thrifty driver, well done. Get your Easy Pass at DriveEasyMD.com.
Treat yourself and taste the Baltimore tradition that is the legendary Costas Inn. Hey, it's Stan the Fan Charles. For over 50 years, the Costas Inn has been a Baltimore original, dishing out their amazingly scrumptious, fat, award-winning crab cakes and steamed crabs. Every season is crab season at Costas, so make your plans now by calling 410-477-1975 and reserve your taste of heaven. Sit back, crack some crabs, and watch the Ravens chase down another title on Costas' 15 TVs. On Monday nights, Costas offers their half-pound jumbo lump crab cake with 2 sides for under $30, and there are nightly specials Monday through Friday. So head on down to the Costas Inn at 4100 North Point Boulevard or visit them at CostasInn.com.
Make the most out of every day in your Toyota RAV4. Available in hybrid or gas-only models. A RAV4 can get you where you want to go in style. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new RAV4s from your local Toyota dealer today.
The latest edition of PressBox is available now. On the cover, Glenn Clark and I sit down for a Q&A with Orioles owner David Rubenstein, discussing what he learned from his first year as owner, his goals both on and off the field, and his involvement in baseball decisions. Also inside, Brooks DeBose profiles new Oriole Tyler O'Neill, and we meet college lacrosse players from around the state. PressBox is available for free at over 500 locations throughout the region, including 60 Royal Farm stores. Or you can read the entire issue online at PressBoxOnline.com, where you can also find great betting advice and the best daily coverage of the O's, Ravens, and Terps.
Need a trophy or award that's as unique as the achievement? Look no further than Crown Trophy. With locations in Owings Mills and Gaithersburg, they specialize in custom trophies, plaques, and medals for any occasion. From sports and academic awards to employee recognition and corporate gifts, visit crowntrophy.com today and let them help you create a lasting memory for your school, team, or business. Crown Trophy is a proud supporter of the Maryland Public Secondary Schools Athletic Association. crowntrophy.com.
One of the things that's definitely wrong with this country is that this dude still has a job somehow, some way. Glenn Clark.
Back in here on GCR as we continue along on a Monday edition of the program. And we are into championship week in high school basketball in the state playoffs. College or high school lacrosse season is underway at the private school level. Find out everything, scores, schedules, preview of everything going on in College Park this week by going to countysports.zone. That's countysports.zone, proudly sponsored by your local Toyota dealer and buyatoyota.com. Man, when this guy was in Sarasota last Monday, it was the good times. It was Felix Bautista's return. It was maybe the greatest Orioles fan we've ever heard from, doing an interview with them during the game. Everything was wonderful. And then the 7 days that followed haven't been quite as great for the Baltimore Orioles. Joining us now, one of our favorites, of course, you see him on ESPN. He is Mr. Buster Olney, and he's back with us now here on GCR. Buster, it's Glenn. It's always good to catch up, man. Thank you for taking the time for us this morning.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Glenn. Yeah, Diane Friedel last week.
She rules.
It was one of those interviews that by the time it was over, it felt like we had more questions than answers.
Right? Like the Cal Ripken story is one. I'm like, I need to find this lady so I can get the story here. What do we need to know?
Totally.
Totally. Buster, just to start on a positive, that scene on Monday, like as spring training goes, there are so few things that happen that actually matter but getting Felix Bautista back, and I know his second outing didn't go quite as well, but getting Felix Bautista back, if he can become something like Felix Bautista, for all of the disappointment of the offseason for the Orioles, the significance of why things might be better certainly starts with Felix Bautista if he can be something like he was in 2023.
No question about it. You know, their bullpen could be one of the best in baseball if he's back. And it was so neat. You know, I was in the Orioles dugout when he finished that inning, and to see his face as he came off after that inning, and the huge grin, you know, as some of the fans there were standing and cheering for him, it was really cool. And it was also clear from, you know, the reaction of his teammates that he's someone who's really liked and really respected. And you hope he comes back for sure, you know, and gets back to where he was before he suffered the injury. Because he's, you know, at that time is not only Brandon Haidt said to us last week, but A.J. Hinch said to us, the Tigers manager, in a separate conversation. He goes, that guy's the best reliever in baseball when he went down.
No question about it. And we saw, look, it wasn't the only problem the Orioles had a year ago, but it certainly was a big part of the problem for a while, their struggles to replace him. The negatives since then, however, and it kind of runs into our confusion about what the Orioles did in the offseason, Buster, which is hopefully they're on the up and up, and it is best case scenario with Grayson Rodriguez. They shut him down for 10 days. He comes back, he ramps back up, and he's back on the mound in April. But that's a hopefully, and it speaks to, I think, why everyone was so confused about them kind of seemingly putting everything in the Corbin Burnes basket this offseason. They were willing to spend a boatload of money on Corbin Burnes, but not really anyone else. How confused were you by that strategy, and how much are they going to be in trouble if it's something more significant than that for Grayson Rodriguez?
So I'm sure that I'm going to say things that you've said and that a lot of Orioles fans have said, that it was absolutely perplexing. It was befuddling why they didn't do more in the winter, because this is their window, right? You got prime Adley Rutschman, you got prime Gunnar Henderson. You know, Gunnar Henderson has got Boris Klein, who I think is going to be the next guy to move into the Juan Soto neighborhood when his contract comes up. So they're probably, given the fact he's represented by Boris, you'd think that there's a pretty good chance they're going to have a hard time retaining him. So now is the time. Like,
Yep.
and especially in a winter in which the Red Sox clearly got better, with the addition of Garrett Crochet and Walker Buehler. The Rays have all these starting pitchers back and healthy now. They are, as Brandon said to us, and other people have said to us, we were in Florida last week, that they're, very underrated. I don't think the Blue Jays are good enough, but they clearly made an effort in the offseason with the addition of Santander to get better. So it was just confusing that the Orioles stood down and didn't add what everyone saw that they needed to add and leave themselves in a position where they had to have Grayson Rodriguez step up this year and, become a number one and be a dominant force. And now, and last week when, his velocity readings were down and he spoke with confusion with reporters after that outing, I was with Ben McDonald and we just like, wow, that's the absolute worst case scenario for this team that doesn't have much starting pitching depth. And now their number one guy, because he had to inherit that role because they didn't do anything else, goes down. And look, with pitching injuries, they can say,
yep,
okay, we think he's fine. But the bottom line is, as we've seen with Garrett Cole, the most predictive indicator of future injury are past injuries. So who knows where it goes from here?
Oh, I live in this is maybe the cynic in me, right? Like I live in the perpetual, the moment that I see elbow and I'm like, that's it. Just go ahead, shut him down. Now, I know it doesn't work that way, and it's just who we are as people. Buster, I feel like the obvious question, and it's funny because you bring up, Garrett Cole, and somebody would say, is this the mode the Yankees are in? A year ago, when we got the news about Corbin Burns, we were not aware of the other side of the coin, the Kyle Bradish situation, and it feels like there was a direct correlation between the two things. If the Orioles were going into this year saying, let's see if Grayson Rodriguez can take that step forward, let's see if we can bulk pitch our way through this and what we might need at the deadline, does this need to change their thought process going into the year where maybe they're picking the phone back up and calling the Mariners or the Padres and being perhaps even Keith Law was trying to sell me a couple weeks ago on the idea that it would be worth trading Kobe Mayo for Dylan Cease, and that sounded crazy to me because, it's 1 year of Cease for a guy that's top prospect. But to his point and to your point, this is the moment. This is your chance. Go try to take advantage of it.
Right, and that's why, to some degree, I think you are willing to pay a little bit extra. You and I have talked about the situation with the Astros in 2017. Mike was there, and their owner, Jim Crane, heard his general manager at that time, Jeff Luhnow, came back and report back that, well, the Tigers are asking too much for Justin Verlander, and he stepped up and said, Crane did, and told him, no, get the deal done. So whatever percentage point you want to put on it, yes, they paid the extra 10%, 15% to make a deal happen because that was the Astros' window for opportunity right then. And they went on and won the World Series. And it's a similar situation now with the Orioles. They're going to have to get comfortable with the idea of paying that extra 10, 15, 20% in value because, my goodness, now that we are in mid-March, and the Yankees are dealing with this issue right now as well with the expectation, I think, in the organization, the anticipation that Garrett Cole is going to be out for the year.
Mm-hmm.
They, at some point, are going to have to go out in the marketplace and pay. And if you acquire a starting pitcher in March, in April, and May, guess what? You're paying sticker price.
Yep.
Those teams, the Marlins with Sandy Alcantara, the Mariners, the Padres, who have, pennant aspirations of their own, they're basically going to say, look, you're going to have to pay big time for these guys. And it probably, if the Orioles are going to contend for a title this year, they have to get comfortable with that idea that a trade is going to hurt. I remember talking to Billy Beane once about 10, 12 years ago, the head of baseball ops with the A's, and he told me, look, when you make a trade, you have to prepare, and you're trading for a really good player, you got to prepare for the fact that it's going to hurt. And that's what I think the Orioles front office has to get comfortable with, that in order to, follow through and give themselves the best chance in this window, they got to make trades that hurt.
I know that's true. It makes it all the more confusing that they didn't try to make a move when it wouldn't require capital from within the organization, but that's where you are. Is Mayo too rich, or is that that's what it's going to take?
Yeah, and I'm not, I mean, that all is sort of in the eyes of the beholder, whatever team they're talking with. I do, all winter, the name that kept coming back to me was Sean Manaea, right, of the Mets, where you're just looking at him and you're thinking, okay, I get it if the Orioles aren't willing to pay Max Fried $218 million, or they don't want to go Corbin Burns $200 million. But you know what? Sean Manaea is a nice midpoint. Having a guy, being willing to pay, $28 million a year over 3 years, that's something you got to get comfortable with. At some point, you have to make expensive deals. And, as we saw over the wintertime, they don't have a single pitcher under a multi-year deal. And at some point, if you're going to contend for a championship, that's got to change.
I agree wholeheartedly. We're chatting with Buster Olney from ESPN here on GCR. Buster, I saw you retweet our buddy Jacob Kalbenmeyer yesterday, and he does point out that Tomoyuki Sagano has had a good spring. Is there any element of, hey, look, they've got Morton, they've got Sagano, they've got Eflin, maybe settle down a little bit, or, yeah, there is absolutely no way to know if anything that Tomoyuki Sagano has done in the spring translates to him actually being ready to be a good Major League Baseball pitcher?
Yeah, that's exactly right. They have no idea at this point what they have in Sagano, and they won't know until they actually get into games, regular season games, with major league hitters, game planning, having seen his stuff and making their adjustments. You just don't know. Charlie Morton's one of my favorite players that I ever saw, have seen and dealt with through the years, but you just don't know, is Charlie going to be able to continue throughout the season? Is he going to have blips where he struggles a little bit? When we saw Sagano in that game last week, it's pretty clear. The guy, and I remember talking to Dean Kramer with, along with Carl Ravitch last week, and he was telling us, like, Sagano's control is absolute pinpoint. You get the feeling that if they ask him to throw out a first pitch at age 80, he'd, get out of the wheelchair and just dot the outside corner. I mean, he just has that gift. But in this era, when everyone throws really hard, he doesn't. He's not going to overpower hitters. Will that translate? You just don't know until I think you actually get into games. It is, people always ask the question, is the spring training matter? Look, it's better that he's putting up zeros than not at this stage, and, an indication that, maybe he's going to be a good pitcher for them, especially for the price.
Yeah, that's a very fair point. It doesn't hurt, right? Like, you'd rather that than him getting better. But yes, I'm exactly where you are with that. You brought it up earlier, and I know we've talked about it before, Buster. Are you at the place where between, as you bring up, Gunnar being a Boris, but it's not just him, Westberg and Holiday also both being Boris guys, and then Adley being this close, like he's already into arbitration, like it's just not happening. Like, we have to admit that the ship has sailed. They are not anchoring down with these guys, and again, they should have been prioritizing going like crazy to try to win in this moment.
That's part of the reason why I think you are trying to win this moment, because I think it's unlikely given the history. Now, look, Gunnar's from a small town, and if the Orioles put, and I'm just pulling a number out of the air, put $350, $400 million in front of him, would he be able to say no? That's not an easy thing to say no to, right? But as you know, mostly Scott Boris's clients get to free agency. There are exceptions. Jared Weaver, basically forced to deal with the Angels. Last year, Matt Chapman forced to deal with the Giants and other Boris clients. Andrew Jones did it back in the day with the Braves. So it can happen. And just, I don't really know Gunnar that well. I've had some great conversations with him. But at some point, is that kid from a small town going to be able to turn down huge amount of money? We'll see.
Have you gotten a sense at all of what to make of this group, of David Rubenstein and his group, and their willing? Like, I feel like it's been confused. David Rubenstein, said publicly, we talked to him for the most recent press box. He said publicly there's no limits, financial constraints, but, and they can acknowledge, hey, the payroll did go up in part because the payroll was so low a year ago, and some guys did reach arbitration and their salaries had to go up. But have you gotten a sense of why, like, the offseason went the way that it did for the Orioles? Because I feel like we're all still kind of confused about that.
Well, I'd say this, and I made the comparison to Jim Crane. There are owners who will step in and basically stomp all over their front office and say, get this done. The worst of those examples is Artie Moreno, the owner of the Angels, who basically single-handedly signed Albert Pujols and Josh Hamilton, et cetera, et cetera. He made those deals, not his general managers. And that's not something you necessarily want. But I do think there are situations where it's the responsibility of the owner to step in and say, okay, now's the time. Mike, it needs to do his job and give his best recommendation. And I think it's the owner's job. If he doesn't feel like that it matches where the moment is for, a given organization, it's the owner's responsibility to come in and say, hey, what about Sean Manaea?
Right.
What about this other pitcher? What about this guy? To this point, and I was as excited, I think, as probably every Orioles fan when the team was sold last year away from the Angelo Sons, that there would be a change. To this point, we haven't seen it. You've had salaries go up because of arbitration, but generally speaking, it is sort of standard operating procedure, very conservative, hanging on to the prospects and not really advancing the ball down the field in terms of moving toward a championship.
And that last part, Buster, I think is the thing that concerns me. You watch Connor Norby expire in this organization, right, to the point where you just almost had to move him for the sake of moving him because he was no longer really a sought-after prospect. And I'm not saying that's what's happening to Heston Kjerstad. I don't know that that's going to happen to Kobe Mayo, but you start to have those feelings of, are those guys going to expire here as well? Like, is this going to be a continuous thing where you hold on to prospects, and by the time you move them, you're not really even getting that much back in return for them?
So the best working example of that in baseball, I think, in the last decade were the Cardinals.
Yeah.
It feels like year after year after year, they've had these guys, Dylan Carlson, et cetera, high draft picks. Everyone's excited. They're in the top prospect list, and they don't get better. Jordan Walker is a recent example of that. And the value slowly erodes. Every year that they add service time, the value goes down. And if they don't get it done for the Orioles, or if you don't take advantage of the value, a lot of times you're stuck. I think the Blue Jays have been fallen victim to being really indecisive, and that's hurt them in the handling of Vladimir Guerrero Jr., and you wonder if it's going to hurt the Orioles eventually along the lines of what you're talking about.
Of course, it's Buster_ESPN. You want to get let's do a podcast plug, and then anything else that we can plug for you, sir?
We do, Baseball Tonight podcast that comes out 3 times a week. There's one I just posted this morning. Doug Glanville's on it today. Have Jorge Castillo talking about the Yankee situation. And I think there's going to be an article up later today about Garrett Cole and what's next for the Yankees, if in fact he's out for the year.
I always appreciate you, sir. You've been great to us. Thank you for taking the time, and let's talk again real soon, all right?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks, buddy. Buster Olney with us here on GCR. I think I saw they're at The Athletic today. They've got a piece about Lance Lynn still available, Kyle Gibson still available.
Just pull out the old 7-man rotation and
just keep. Is what we keep saying about bulk pitching, right? Like that's what's out there. It's easy. I get it. What I'm doing is easy. What I'm doing is the point, poke a stick, do something. It's easy to do that. Then when we actually present okay, so if the Padres say you can have Cease, but it costs you Mayo, and everybody's like, you can't do that. That's too much. Well, you just said you wanted him to do something, and you don't want it to be Gibson. You don't want it to be trading Mayo for Cease. So what is it that you want? And it's easy to say you want to go back and undo what they didn't do. And don't get me wrong, I do as well. It was strange then, it's strange now. But you can't undo that. This is the situation. So now what? Well, they're not firing Mike Elias. They're not going to walk in today and say, well, you didn't go out and get enough pitching in the offseason. You're gone. So what is it? Because the answer might be exactly what Buster said. You've got to make a painful trade. Try to take advantage of this window. And I don't love the idea of constantly acquiring pitchers. I brought it up with my buddy Steve Johnson yesterday. And Steve Johnson's like, yeah, you can do it, but what if he gets hurt the following week? And now you've traded away Kobe Mayo for someone who never pitched for you? Which, again, is part of the equation with pitching. And I understand. I understand the blowback. I don't expect the Orioles to do anything significant. Could they pick up a Kyle Gibson? Could they try to reunite with Kyle Gibson? Maybe. But I don't expect them to do anything significant, at least until they see where Grayson Rodriguez is after this 7 to 10 days. If the plan was we're going with this group of guys, I don't think they are deviating from that plan until they know it's worse. And again, hopefully it's not worse. I don't expect, unless they really know it is worse now and they're just not telling us that because they don't want the rest of the teams around the league to know that while they're trying to go acquire some pitching. If they're being on the up and up about Grayson Rodriguez, then my gut is they're not changing their strategy today. They are waiting it out. They're saying, hey, Kay Povich might have to make a few starts for us at the beginning of the season, or Albert Suarez. That's not the end of the world. Suarez was pretty good a year ago. We still think that Povich could be good. So everybody settle down a little bit. If after 10 days Grayson responds and, looks good and his velocity, if that's all the case, then I think that they're going to go back to this was the plan. The plan was, let's send this group out there, let's see what we have, and we'll address it at the deadline as necessary. Figure out what we need. I don't think they deviate from that plan today if they're being truthful. If they see Grayson Rodriguez in 10 days and don't like what they see, then that might change things. But they'd be fighting with a hand tied behind their back because everybody that they'd be looking to move, if they call the Padres back and say, hey, we didn't really want to do Heston Kjerstad, we've changed our mind about that. The Padres might suddenly say, we don't want Kjerstad, we want Mayo. And it might have always been Mayo. Or they might have been asking for Basayo and, whatever. This is the reality, man. I mean, this is where they are. You can't go back and undo. To Buster's point, yeah, why wouldn't you go get Sean Manaea? What did he end up saying? It was 25 per for 3 years, something like that, 3 years, 75.
I think technically
which
it was 25.
I have no problem with somebody saying $25 million for Sean Manaea. That's the price for pitching. We can scream about the price of pitching, but it's the price of pitching. Do I think it's nuts? Yeah, I think there's lots of things that are crazy. I don't love how much I'm paying for eggs right now, but it's that or don't have eggs. I can't go unless I want to. I guess I could try to go raise chickens myself. That would be the option.
Yeah. You got space for it.
But the Orioles have had the option to draft pitchers. They haven't. This is what happens. You don't want to raise chickens, you got to pay for the eggs. And you don't get to set your price. You don't get to walk in and say, I don't love that price. I want these eggs, but I don't love that price. The price of pitching is what it is. You decided not to draft pitchers. You put yourself in this spot. It was always going to cost you more. There was going to be a tax that came along with the decision to not draft pitchers, which might very well be the smart decision because of all the volatility related to pitchers. But at some point, you need them. The volatility means you need more of them. I like Kyle Gibson, by the way, as a person. Like, I'm not. He was a fun guy to have in town. I'm not saying that I think that he's an answer by any stretch of the imagination, but he could probably eat some innings, and he's a good guy. So, by all means, go bring back Kyle Gibson. And hopefully you don't need him. Hopefully you get to a point where you just say, sorry, man.
He made 30 starts last year.
What were his numbers?
He had because I just clicked the link now. He was 8-8 with an 8-8 record, 4.24 ERA, 170 innings pitched, 150 strikeouts, 1.35 WHIP.
It's not great, but he can eat innings.
Yeah,
he can do that. When we come back in,
30 starts.
He'll make the starts. He'll make them. Like, I can't tell you what the results will be, but he'll make them.
I mean, he was more or less Charlie Morton last year. Like,
more or less, yeah, that's about right. I guess that would be the problem, is that you already have your Kyle Gibson. Like, that's the role that Charlie Morton's playing for you. You don't really need multiple Kyle Gibsons in one rotation.
Yeah, Charlie Morton, at least I guess we thought, wasn't meant to be a guy that's going to be starting a playoff game. Like, it's...
Yeah. Yeah, it's easy to say that, isn't it?
Well,
isn't it easy to say that?
Yeah.
We come back in. Chris Broussard is going to join us.
They had like identical numbers last year. It's crazy.
Morton and Kyle Gibson.
Yeah.
What was
165 innings for Morton. He went 8-10 overall, like 4.19 ERA. So.
And what Gibson's was?
He was a 4.24 ERA. 1.32 WHIP for Morton, a 1.35 WHIP for Gibson.
Jeez.
And Morton struck out like 15 more guys than Gibson.
You've got your Kyle Gibson.
Yeah.
We have Kyle Gibson at home. They needed better than Kyle Gibson, but they didn't get that. All right, I mentioned it a couple times. Chris Broussard is joining us next, and we come back in on a Monday edition of Glenn Clark Radio.
COVID-19 and flu viruses are circulating in Maryland. But don't worry. Protection is within arm's reach. Protect your health with this year's COVID-19 and flu shots. It's safe and convenient to get them both at the same time. Flex your protection. For more information, visit health.maryland.gov/vaccines.
This message paid for by the Maryland Department of Health.
Whether your focus is luxury and comfort, convenience and technologically advanced connectivity, or sporty performance and aggressive styling, we've got the perfect Highlander for you. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Highlanders from your local Toyota dealer today.
March is a slam dunk at Live Casino. Catch all the basketball action and more at Sports and Social. Enter our $80,000 Dolce & Gabbana giveaway on March 28th. And catch the Baltimore baseball jersey giveaway March 31st. Take your shot at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. At Arundel Mills. Must be 21. Please play responsibly. For help, visit mdgamblinghelp.org or call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
The latest edition of PressBox is available now. On the cover, Glenn Clark and I sit down for a Q&A with Orioles owner David Rubenstein, discussing what he learned from his first year as owner, his goals both on and off the field, and his involvement in baseball decisions. Also inside, Brooks DeBose profiles new Oriole Tyler O'Neill, and we meet college lacrosse players from around the state. PressBox is available for free at over 500 locations throughout the region, including 60 Royal Farm stores, or you can read the entire issue online at PressBoxOnline.com, where you can also find great betting advice and the best daily coverage of the O's, Ravens, and Terps.
Contrary to what some people believe, I actually like this guy when he sleeps. Glenn Clark, talking sports.
All right, back in here on GCRs, continue along on a Monday edition of the program. We're going to switch things up a little bit later on this hour. We'll head down to Sarasota. PressBox's Luke Jackson is there. He'll tell us what it is that he has observed his first couple of days down there, which, nothing but blue skies, baby. Nothing but blue skies. And we will still check in with Jeremy Conn later on this hour as well. And we will do all of those things. With that in mind, not a normal Stan the Fan show. I know he'll be just popping on as part of their spring training coverage, but no typical Monday baseball show for Stan, Ross, and Luke. They'll get back in the swing of that after they get back from Sarasota, and we will look forward to that then. I feel like there was something else that oh, yes. Hang on a second. Let me go back. Chris says, Glenn, as far as what the Ravens might do are concerned, do you feel like there's any chance that they had to get this done now because there's something they want instead of letting him go to free agency and test? No, I think they wanted to get it done now. I don't think it's about something else. I think Ronnie Stanley, I don't think the priority is someone else, so get Ronnie Stanley. No, I think Ronnie Stanley was the priority. He was the player they wanted. I do also think that this required Ronnie Stanley being interested in being back in Baltimore. Because I really would be stunned by this being... I know technically tampering isn't supposed to start until today, but to be abundantly clear, there's been plenty of tampering. Everybody knows what it is that a team would be willing to offer. So there is very little doubt in my mind that someone was willing to offer Ronnie Stanley something more than what the Ravens were willing to offer. This required interest on the part of Ronnie Stanley to come back to Baltimore. I'm kind of plain and simple. He also had to want to be back here. Because if he wanted to be back here, then you can make that work. Find the number that works. It looks like the number was do better than Alaric Jackson. And he did. Okay, then we're all good. I think almost certainly the New England Patriots, they stand out because of all the money they have, would have been willing to offer him more. But it required Ronnie Stanley wanting to be back in Baltimore and not wanting to prioritize just getting every penny that he possibly could. And saying, hey, I like the situation in Baltimore. I want to stay there. And that appears to be how this went. And that's a win. But I don't think it's, let's get this done so we can prioritize something else. I think Ronnie Stanley was the offseason priority for the Baltimore Ravens. You know, left tackle's pretty important. All right, this guy, I imagine, knowing that he has become a big Ravens fan in recent years, was pleased to hear that Ronnie Stanley would be back. And he's got an event coming up this week down in PG County that he's going to tell us all about. He is our buddy. You see him every day on Fox Sports 1. Chris Broussard is with us once again here on GCR. Chris, it's Glenn. It's always great to catch up, man. Thank you for taking the time for us this morning.
Yeah, man, great to be on. It's been a while ever since the Ravens
don't remind me. Don't remind me.
The way they did.
Yeah. You brought in.
We did everything. I brought in Snoop, you know, from The Wire, everything to try to motivate them, and they didn't get it done. But I just heard you. Things are looking good for next year, so they'll be right there again. They just got to get over the hump.
Yeah, Chris, it's a weird thing, right? Because it's a very boring way to approach this. Like, when a team loses and you've been through it a few times, you always want heads to roll and things to be shaken up. But look, man, I hate the fact that this continues, or the Ravens continue losing in the playoffs, but I am convinced that at some point they're going to break through, and I think the prioritizing the idea of let's just run it back as much as we possibly can is the correct one for this team. I don't think they need major shakeups. I think they need better results.
No, I totally agree. And the defense, you would think, is going to improve.
Mm-hmm.
It improved, obviously, over the second half of last season. They'll have another year with Zach Orr. You know, he'll be in his second year as DC. So I expect improvement on that side of the ball. Offensively, look, there was all the talk about Lamar versus the Steelers, Lamar in the playoffs. and I saw he made strides in both of those situations. Certainly, he got over the Steelers hump, and he played well in the playoffs. I mean, he did have, the big fumble.
Yeah.
But outside of that and the interception, I don't want to overlook those. But overall, he actually played a pretty good game against Buffalo. So I think he'll be better next year as well. So, I think they got a great shot. Look, you got to get it done soon because Derrick Henry, who knows how much longer he's going to be an elite running back just because of his age and the tread on his tires.
Dude, I hear you saying that, but the guy that we saw, I'm starting to wonder if he just really isn't an alien and couldn't do this until he was like 40.
There are guys, Walter Payton, Emmitt Smith, Adrian Peterson. There are guys that have gone longer than your typical, great running backs. And he may be one of those guys because he was fantastic last year. And having Lamar does help Derrick Henry and vice versa. Yep. So I think that opens it up for him too.
I think there's no doubt about that. The one thing that if there was a lesson to me to be learned from these playoffs, and it's funny because the comparison I keep making is Peyton Manning, but thinking back to what it took for Peyton Manning to finally break through, it kind of took a postseason where he was a little bit more boring, right, back in 2006.
Yeah.
And I don't ever want to limit Lamar Jackson because, as you and I both know, he's one of the most incredible. That fumble that happened in the playoff game, we literally saw him take a botched snap against the Bengals in the regular season and turn it into one of the more memorable touchdowns of the year. I never want to say to Lamar Jackson, don't try to be Lamar Jackson. But I do wonder if the lesson is in the playoffs, you got to live to fight another day. And you don't need otherworldly Lamar Jackson. You need the Lamar Jackson that just makes good decisions and controls the game and doesn't let things get away from him. And I do wonder if that's the lesson, if anything, that they take from falling short this past year.
Yeah, and it can be a challenging, road to hoe. You got to toe that line and really have that balance because, as you said, you don't want to take away what makes him great, but he definitely has to understand that I can't, be Superman on every play. We saw it with Josh Allen, who obviously hasn't gotten over the hump either, but he has improved in that regard. And Lamar's improved in that regard too, but you don't want him to go the other way. I thought, we all thought, I think, 2 years ago against Kansas City, where he went too far in the other direction in that AFC Championship game and didn't run the football a lot of times when he could have. So he's got to find that balance between making the dynamic play and living to see another day by taking a sack or whatever it might be.
Yeah, just saying, hey, this is the way it goes. We'll see what happens on second down. He's Chris Broussard. He's with us here on GCR. Chris, tell me about the King of the Court DMV Classic.
Yeah, so this upcoming Saturday, 6 o'clock, or teams need to be there at 5 p.m. It's at First Baptist Church of Glen Arden. We are having the King of the Court basketball tournament. It's a 5-on-5 tournament. So it's not 3-on-3. It's full court, 5-on-5, $4,000 on the line. Really $5,000. $4,000 to the winning team, $1,000 to the runner-up. It's a part of a men's conference that I'm throwing at the church Friday and Saturday. So if you want to come out, the conference itself is about faith, family, fatherhood, finances, all of these great topics. We'll have some ex-NBA players there, Allen Houston, Eton Thomas, Lawrence Funderburk. We'll have Troy Vincent from the NFL, former player, now works in the league office. He'll be there as well. So you can come out for that too. But also if you just want to play basketball, that is Saturday night, 5 p.m., First Baptist Church of Glen Arden, the King of the Court hoop tournament. And if you can ball, you could really leave with your pockets a lot fatter, $4,000.
So do you need, and we're linking it up on our Twitter account as well for people to find out more at Glenn Clark Radio, do you need to have your team in place already, or can you just show up looking for a team?
No, you need to have a team. Okay. That's a great question. It's kingsummit.org, kingsummit.org. You can go to the bottom of the page and register. But, yeah, because we've had just one or two individuals say, hey, I'd like to play. but they don't have a team. And look, theoretically, if there were 7 guys there that, you know, don't have a squad and want to play, we could throw a team together. But we obviously already have teams registered. And so most likely guys are just going to have to get your 5 guys. Now, you can have as many as 7 because obviously you can have reserves. So it's between 5 and 7 players. But, yeah, you really need to have your own team.
And you need to register ahead of time.
Yeah, we will take, depending on how many teams we've got registered, we're already close to about 20.
Okay.
We may take some teams at the door, but ideally, if you want to be certain to get in, you need to register. Registration is $150 per team, $150, again, at kingsummit.org.
That's awesome, man. That's a very cool thing. And, again,
now, do you play?
Oh, dude, I'm 41 now. My knees are bad. I played a lot. You know what's really funny? I played a lot when I was in college at UMBC. And, like, I would actually I was not even in great shape, but I would run. The guys loved having me out there running with them. I have gotten away from, like, hoops entirely at this point. I'm the guy, like, I actually loved this role when I was in my 20s. Like, I was the semi-out-of-shape white guy that, like, would frustrate everybody because I would knock down shots and I would fight for rebounds, and they would just be annoyed as hell by me. But I'm like, those days are come and gone for me. Like, they are over.
No, I hear you. I'm the same. I'm older than you.
Yeah.
I played in competitive rec leagues until I was about 50, or until I was 50. And I would have kept playing, but just my schedule changed, and I didn't have time.
Yeah, you're doing.
And now I don't want to go out and get hurt. You know, that's the worst thing. Get hurt in rec ball.
I get that, man. Chris, you know, if I could, since we're talking to hoops, I wonder. I know there's been a lot of jawing in the media over the course of the last week. I will account myself as someone who, like, in pro sports, and maybe this is just the provincial thing we're in Baltimore, that when all of the conversation centers around major market teams, I check out a little bit. I just do. And I get it. What's going on, and I know LeBron got hurt over the weekend, but what's going on with the Lakers, it deserves this amount of attention. I'm not mad about that. I understand it. It's just not for me. I'm inclined to root against major market teams. I didn't like the World Series a year ago. I was less interested in watching.
Really?
Yeah, I just didn't interest me.
Now, are you from the
I am a Baltimore
DC area?
Baltimore born and bred. Baltimore born and bred, and moved out to Phoenix for a couple of years and loved it there. But this has been home for all but 2 years of my life. It is, and I embrace, like, where there's a great small market store. If the Oklahoma City Thunder are in the finals this year, I will fully embrace them because there's just something to me about small market, good stories that I don't get from major markets. We've got all the money. We've got all the attention. And I acknowledge that's who I am, and I'm not like everybody else. The idea that, like, this is saving the NBA really hurts me because then it's like, man, the Thunder are really good. Why aren't we paying more attention to the Thunder?
Right.
Like, why aren't we paying? The story of the Rockets this year is awesome. Like, it's incredible how they've turned things around from being moribund. Like, where is the line between we have to pay attention to the Lakers because they're the Lakers versus are we not doing a good enough job of telling the stories and showing why some of these other teams are so compelling?
Well, look, and you know I've done TV for over 2 decades, and whether it was at ESPN or now at Fox, we do get the numbers on what teams are drawing the rating. Yeah. And so the big market or the sexy teams and players do want you to talk more about them because that's what draws the eyeballs. If it's a smaller market, it typically has to be a really sexy story, or a dynamic player. And Oklahoma City is interesting because, as you said, they are a terrific team. And Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who's going to win his first MVP,
he's a star.
Is a phenomenal player. Yeah. But he's not, you know, the person. You watch him, I mean, he's just a solid guy, and obviously LeBron is too. But he just doesn't captivate the imagination like a LeBron or a Steph or, some of these big superstars. Now, maybe that'll happen as time goes on. He's still young, obviously. But they're interested. And I also think, look, it's unfortunate he was hurt most of the season. But Chet Holmgren is also the type of player that I think people are going to want to watch. Like, he's been hurt most of this year, so people haven't gotten to see the best of him. But, he's very young. He's a 7-footer who can play on the perimeter, can block shots, handles the ball. I think he's a future star as well. And so if Shea and Chet both, together and Chet becomes that second star, then I think they will become a sexier team to people. I don't think market size is as big as it used to be for the NBA. Obviously, LeBron was in Cleveland. Giannis is in Milwaukee. Jokic is in Denver. So I think that, if you've got the captivating player, people will watch and be interested in it. But, it's an interesting topic for sure. And we'll see. I mean, you could have Cleveland, Oklahoma City. Now, you might want to see that.
Oh, I'm all in.
I certainly wouldn't mind seeing that.
But the average
the hardcore basketball fans would love it. But the casual fan probably would rather L.A., Boston, or something like that.
They'd say, we don't know who any of these guys are. I mean, and I understand exactly what you're saying. And, like, if SGA was a bigger pop culture figure or something like that, it's a different conversation. It's just fascinating to me, like, the line between the two things. Because to your point, your only job is, I deal with the same thing. We have sponsors. We got to get ratings. Like, that's the way that this works.
Yep. No doubt.
For the NBA, maybe it would be good if there was somebody that was really trying to push SGA. Like, hey, pay attention to this guy. It's a tough line, man. It's a very tough line.
Well, this could be a year where he does emerge. If they do get to the finals, then maybe he'll emerge as that guy. It's not automatic. Jason Tatum, he has not captivated people as a potential face of the league, but he's in more commercials. And I think this year, if Boston does win the championship, specifically if they were to beat a Lakers team with Luka and LeBron in the finals, or if he beats Giannis on the way to the finals, and he really plays at the top of his game, unlike he has in previous playoffs, then maybe he could become that guy that captivates the emotions, and people start to look at him as a face of the league guy. But we'll see. The thing is, these guys are all still young too.
Yep.
I mean, they've been in the league now 6, 7, 8 years, but they're still really young and have a long way to go to captivate fans.
Man, a year ago, I was so ready to crown Anthony Edwards as, like, the new face of the NBA. When, like, they beat the Nuggets.
He's got it all. He has everything.
Right?
He's just got to win.
God, man, no doubt. At Chris_Broussard, of course, first things first on Fox Sports 1. And, again, the website one more time, Chris, is...
King Summit, one word, .org. Scroll to the bottom of the page and you'll see the registration. $5K on the line. I tell you what, if I was younger, I'd be playing in that game.
I get it, man. King of the Court DMV Classic this Saturday night down in PG County. Chris, you're the best, man. Appreciate you as always. Thanks for hopping on. Let's talk soon, all right?
Thanks, my man. Peace.
Chris Broussard, Fox Sports 1, with us here on GCR. If he didn't get lost in all the jawing between Charles Barkley and Kendrick Perkins last week, that's where this came from. Where Charles Barkley, and I understand, because what Chris Broussard just said is true, undoubtedly. Now, somebody would snicker at the idea of Charles Barkley being the one that's complaining that you focus on the couple of teams that everybody knows and don't. Somebody would say, dude, you don't even know who the players are on some of these teams. It's kind of your bid. But I understand the point he's attempting to make, even if he's maybe the wrong messenger for the point. The point is, it's so easy for the people who have amplified voices to just default to Lakers, Warriors, basically just the Lakers and Warriors, if we're being honest. Celtics, I guess, Knicks. it's easy for them to default to, let's talk about those teams. What has changed, and I've had to acknowledge it's changed, is that the Lakers are legitimately title contenders. They are. They weren't to begin the season. The Lakers with Luka Doncic are 1,000% legitimately title contenders. And in that way, it is worthy of spending that much time talking about the Lakers. I'm still hard-pressed to think that the Warriors, even with Jimmy Butler, are title contenders, but, I mean, he's playoff Jimmy, I guess you never know. But I understand his point, which is somehow there are great teams that are living in relative anonymity because we're just obsessed with what are the Lakers going to do, what are the Warriors going to do, instead of do you see what it is that the Cavaliers are doing? Do you see what it is that the Thunder are doing? And as a casual sports fan, are they aware of how much better those two teams have been than everybody else in the NBA this season? Or are we so obsessed with covering the big market teams, the teams with the biggest stars, to the point, like, San Francisco isn't typically, it is a big market, but it's not always seen as like a traditional big market team. But Steph Curry is a transcendent pop culture figure. So covering the Warriors like that has made sense because of Steph Curry's stardom. What is the line between the two things? Kendrick Perkins suggested that what's going on with the Lakers is saving the NBA. Which one is laughable? I tried yesterday after I did the radio show. The Hopkins-Syracuse game was over. That was a bummer. The Towson game was over. Not that I was allowed to watch that one anyway. The Navy game was over.
Spiro, right?
Yeah, I did, actually, for a while. I was listening to Spiro yesterday. But those games were over, and I went home, and I needed to do some laundry and put away some laundry, and I was like, I want to put a game on in the background. And I just tried putting on Suns Mavericks. And I just realized, like, my son walks in, and he's just, like, trying to get excited about it the way that we get excited about watching, like, a Maryland game. And I'm like, and it's not even just because the Suns
And he was
stink.
like, why are we not watching Arch Madness? We should
Right,
be watching
exactly
Missouri
right. Well, that was
Valley.
also already over.
Oh, this was after 4 o'clock.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay. I forgot you had a weird time, yeah.
Yeah, it was a weird day yesterday. 2 to 4 for some reason. Appreciated Keaton Mitchell checking in. That was fun. But
How's he doing?
In general, I
Yeah,
think
I guess.
good. I think he's good. I
Good.
saw him at the block breakfast yesterday. He seemed like he was doing well. Got to know Ventrell Miller of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Spent a lot of time chatting with him. Great guy. Found out he shares an agent with Arthur Millette, which is another guy I like a lot. But I say all this to say, like, you just can't get. It's the problem that you can't say out loud. The NBA forever is going to want you to care about the regular season, the way that you care about, like, the NFL regular season, and you're not, unless it's your team. In local markets, you can care about the NBA regular season. So I don't know how to change this. I don't know how to fix it. I don't think it can be. And to Chris Broussard's point, the playoffs are when it can be fixed. I was damn near obsessed with Anthony Edwards in the postseason last year. I couldn't get enough of him. But ask me how many minutes I had spent watching Anthony Edwards during the regular season last year.
I guess.
Yeah, because it rhymes with Biro.
Biro. Well, that's a good word.
Or Spiro, for
Oh,
example.
yeah, there you
It
go.
rhymes with the guy I was spending time with yesterday. That's the reality. So it might very well be that when we say, hey, you should be paying more attention to Oklahoma City and Cleveland, well, that is going to have to come in the playoffs. They're going to have to prove that in the playoffs. Now, Denver proved it in the playoffs, and how much attention do we really pay to Denver during the regular season? It also rhymes with Spiro. So it's a complicated conversation. It's one the NBA ultimately wants to solve because they want their regular season. I mean, they keep trying to force this cockamamie nonsense tournament which of course was won
the
last year
NBA
by
Cup,
the
by my team, the Bucks.
Yeah, the team
Bucks.
you had,
my Bucks,
and you still struggle to remember who it was.
My Bucks.
Yeah.
No, I knew it was the Bucks.
Yeah,
it was.
did you?
I was. You just called. I just wasn't expecting a
Yeah,
question.
that's
why I wasn't ready.
That's what happened there.
I had the answer.
They want desperately for the regular season to matter.
I can name both champions.
And so to them, Luka Doncic showing up in Los Angeles was great, right? Like, because now these networks will talk about that because it's the Lakers, and we talk about those teams. I'm the exact I check out. I'm so less interested in the NBA if the focus is on the Lakers. When it was Lakers-Celtics on Saturday night, sorry.
I don't know. I might be more interested come April, like once the playoffs do start.
I'll be interested
more interested in the first round than maybe I would have been.
I'll be
before.
interested in the playoffs. I'm always interested in the playoffs, but I won't be interested in the playoffs because the Lakers are more interested. The market size will never translate to me in level of interest. Now, if somebody says, yes, but I'm interested in LeBron James and Luka Doncic on any team together, like if they were on the Cavaliers together, or the Wizards together, I'd be interested. I understand that argument. Admittedly, it's my aversion. I am always going to be less inclined to
You're anti-LeBron, yeah.
And not LeBron. The Lakers, the Yankees, the Dodgers, all of these teams that suck up all of the energy. It works the exact same way for me. They get the attention. My interest goes the exact opposite way. And you can say that's because you're a hater. You could say whatever you want to say.
Yeah, you are a hater.
Fine. I know I'm not the only one that just gets sick of being beat over the head with what they care about in the big markets, you need to care about too. If you want to work you got to go to New York. You can't get me to, I don't care about it. I love SNL. The worst part of SNL is their obsession with New York and doing New York stuff. And I get it. That's where they are. It makes sense. But I don't care. I'm not a coastal elite. I don't even live on the you know what I mean.
Wasn't there a sketch a few weeks ago where someone shouted out Dundalk, Maryland?
Yes, there was.
Yeah.
When not Pedro Mescal. Who was the other?
Mescal.
Who's the other?
You mean not Pedro?
Yeah,
you meant
Pascal.
Yeah, Pedro Pascal.
That's who it was.
You're talking about the gladiator guy, Paul Mescal.
Paul Mescal. That's who I'm trying to think of.
Yeah.
Pedro Pascal. That shouldn't be allowed.
They're the same movie as well.
No, I mean, oh yeah, but in general, you got to go to one of them. It's like the Dylan McDermott. This was the Dylan McDermott, Dermot Mulroney situation. Like one of you guys is going to have to do something else. We're never going to be able to figure out which one of you is which. Haley Steinfeld, Sarah. Who's the girl from Modern Family?
Sarah Hyland.
Sarah Hyland.
Yeah, Hyland.
Haley Steinfeld. Nope, never gonna. Too much. Way too close.
I mean, but
way too close.
Do they do something together?
No, it doesn't matter if they do something together. It's just they both exist, and they both have the same vocation. One of you's got it. There can only be one. Do you know how much of a problem it was when Glenn Eunice was doing radio in Baltimore? You know how many times that became an issue?
Glenn and Glenn?
Oh, my God. The number of times.
Why didn't you guys have a show together? Glenn and Glenn.
Well, he came on before Jeremy. He was our Monday guy every week. And I like Glenn. That's my guy. But it was a massive problem in my life.
Sounds like, and then finally you said, there's only room for
100%.
One Glenn
Get out.
in this town.
Get out. That's what I said. No, it was a huge problem because then people would be like, they would expect one of us and get the other one. Like, they would think they were talking to
Glenn coming in.
Yeah, exactly right. Or they would just kind of make both of us the same person in their minds. Happened all the time. Can't have it. Paul, what are their names?
Paul Mescal
and Pedro. I think it was Paul Mescal who was hosting the He did the Dundalk.
Yeah, he did. I think he said Dundalk as well.
Yeah, Dundalk is what he said.
Yeah, Dundalk.
Dundalk, Maryland is how he said it. Are you really sleeping on Dundalk? Paul Mescal, Pedro Pascal.
They're pandering directly to you now.
There can only be one. Put him in a cage somewhere. There can only be one.
They're both pretty good, though.
They're fine. I don't have any issue with either of them, but there can only be one.
All right, well, my vote's for Pedro.
One of them has to change their name to like Joey. Like Joey or Dave.
Joey Mescal?
No. You have to change the whole name. Like Dave Johnson. Well, there's too many of them. Never mind. But you get the point. Got to go. Would
he become the most famous Dave Johnson? Should we ask ChatGPT?
I think he would. I think he would become the same. I think we messed up Rita, by the way. I think we.
Because you showed Rita what hers said?
No, we did a bit with Steve. Steve was on the show yesterday. And so we talked about it. And I think Rita didn't realize, like, you had to specifically ask it to roast you. I think she just thought, like, tell me about Rita Hubbard, and that's what you got. She didn't realize that you were legitimately asking it to roast you. Like, the point was...
So it didn't roast Rita.
No.
It did.
It did. We had ChatGPT roast... Or Steve was all over it. He had ChatGPT roast everybody, including Rita. And then I shared it with Rita, and Rita, I think, just missed in translation that it was a specific roast and just thought that's what ChatGPT thinks of her. And so it was a whole thing.
Okay.
It's great content. It's tremendous. I hate that I'm putting AI over this much. I never want to put AI over, but goddamn, it's good content. I can't be mad about it. I figured at this point we ran out of time to take a break. So
yeah, Twitter's still down, by the way, so I can't share. I can't share stuff over the last.
What the hell is going on with Twitter? It was back. It went down this morning, then it came back. When did it leave again?
Somewhere between when I sent the tweet out that Chris Broussard just joined us, and then.
Well, I think what we can all agree to is the guy's doing a bang-up job.
Yeah.
He's just. Thank God, him and Big Balls are running our country because bang-up job. I mean, imagine if it was somebody else, they might have rockets falling out of the sky. You know, like thank God. Monday edition of the program. Hi, again, this is the Vertigo. You can't blame me. This is the Vertigo. I woke up this morning, equilibrium was all over the place. All over the place. So don't blame me, blame the Vertigo. As you know, this week, Stan the Fan Charles and Luke Jackson are down in Sarasota covering spring training for PressBox. Their coverage is brought to you by 1-800-GAMBLER. Easy Pass, Costas Inn, and Live Casino and Hotel. Joining us now from Sarasota, he is the aforementioned Luke Jackson, PressBox Editor-in-Chief. Luke, good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm doing great, but more importantly, how is Griffin doing?
I think I'm doing pretty good. Thanks, Luke.
50-50.
Okay,
I appreciate you asking.
50-50 is what I would say. 50-50.
Big game today, Griffin. Big game.
Oh my gosh, yeah, it is. It's a big one. Oh, this is our kryptonite round as well. The semifinals.
It's true.
But
Never gotten past this round.
Hopefully, Delaware's got tired legs.
Yeah, they've had to play. This is their third game in 3 days.
We can officially boot them from the conference.
Send them packing. Okay.
Send them packing the right way.
Yeah. Something like that.
I'm nervous.
All right, Luke.
I'm confident. It's a confidence.
I appreciate you going to something else to not have to talk about all of the negativity that has come from Sarasota over the course of the last week. Do you take the Orioles at their word as to what it is that they're telling us about Grayson Rodriguez, that this really is just 7 to 10 days? Because as you would imagine, there are an awful lot of cynics who, whenever there's anything related to an elbow in a pitcher, they just assume it's always worse than whatever it is that we're being told.
Yeah, you're probably right that it's very much a wait-and-see kind of mode. And even if Grayson feels good when he restarts throwing his throwing program in 7 to 10 days, that can be temporary. So very much a wait-and-see kind of deal right now. And obviously he was a big part of what they hope to do in the rotation this year. And I think you and I talked about this over the offseason, that there was a list of ifs for the Orioles this year. And close to the top, if not at the top, was going to be, could Grayson Rodriguez stay on a major league mound for 30-plus starts? The answer to that is going to be no.
Yep, that's not happening. Although, again, if it really is this timeline and he can ramp back up after those 7 to 10 days and he can be ready to go mid to late April, then it's not the end of the world. Like nobody would be losing their mind over that. It's just that this started with it's nothing. This started with there's no physical problem, and then it turned into something with his triceps, and then it turned into his elbow in the span of 3 days. And so
yeah, if it really was his triceps, I think Dean Kramer had the same issue last year, and he missed about 6 weeks.
Yep.
But apparently it's not the triceps anymore, or it might not be the triceps anymore. So we just got to wait and see.
Yeah, I don't. What's your sense as to whether or not this changes their thought process, and perhaps they get back on the phone and try to see what the Mariners are thinking, or what the Padres are thinking, or maybe even the Marlins are thinking for some of the pitchers that perhaps they had considered in trades?
Yeah, I'm sure you guys have talked about this, but Ken Rosenthal wrote last night that the Orioles are exploring additions, which is not surprising.
Well, yeah, but including, of course, Lance Lynn and Kyle Gibson. So that could be the big difference maker for this team.
That could be the big difference. Well, if you ask Stan, he really likes the idea of bringing back Kyle Gibson. And they are one injury in the rotation away from needing Kyle Gibson. So
you have Kyle Gibson at home. His name is Charlie Morton.
Well, Charlie Morton's a little better.
A little bit.
So yeah, that was one thing that was missing from the Charlie Morton age discussion, is that Charlie Morton's actually been pretty good. Now, whether he can be pretty good for 6 months at his age, I don't know, but he should be able to at least get into the trade deadline.
I hope that's the case. Yeah, my gut tells me that they at least wait to see what's going on. If the plan was this is what we're doing, I think they at least wait. And if they're being on the up and up about Grayson, then they wait it out and see where Grayson is. And if Grayson is really on the front end of the timeline and come back in April, then I don't think that they feel the need to be incredibly aggressive. But I think most of us thought they should have been more aggressive before the Grayson Rodriguez injury. So I think that most Orioles fans would probably be in favor of them being more aggressive after the Grayson Rodriguez.
Yeah. You know, it would have been really cool, Corbin Burns and Charlie Morton. That would have been
what
really
a thought. What a thought. That would be something. Luke Jackson is with us from spring training in Sarasota. Luke, I guess the Felix Bautista follows up what was a really good outing his first time with not such a great outing his second time. What's the sense that you get about the plan, what they want to see, how much opening day really is in the picture? What's your gut after the second outing from Felix Bautista?
Well, I think Hyde said that they want him to throw 6 to 8 times this spring, which makes sense to me. That's what, 2-3 days between outings from the time he started. And then whenever he starts, whether that's opening day or 2 weeks into it or 4 weeks into it, I mean, there ain't going to be any back-to-backs. The 2-inning outings are over. But you would love to see the velocity tick back up by the end of camp. I just don't know what the timeline on that would be, because coming back from Tommy John is so unpredictable, the process. And who knows? The Orioles are probably a little touch and go right now with him. But I think the most important thing right now is that he feels good the day after an outing. And as long as that's the case, you have to trust the process on it. But as long as he feels good physically, that's probably the most important thing, right?
At this point, yes, 100%. Until the games matter, that is the most important thing. There's no doubt about it. Luke, I know you wrote for PressBox about Tomoyuki Sagano, who has had an outstanding start to the spring, has still not allowed an earned run. It's a very difficult part of the conversation to have, because there would be someone that would try to juxtapose the concern about Grayson Rodriguez by pointing that out. I just don't know how much it matters and how much we read into. Is it better than if he was getting shelled every time out? I think so. But as I say all the time about spring training, I don't even know that. I don't know what to make of it in reading into how ready Tomoyuki Sagano is to adjust to pitching in the major leagues when guys are actually trying to beat him starting in April.
Yeah, and when he'll be seeing American East lineups for real.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he looks as advertised. He's a command and control artist. He throws 6 different pitches, can throw them all for strikes. Yesterday, the command was really good. Fastball to both sides of the plate, and the splitter was good. He got some swings and misses on that, including one really ugly one for a strikeout. So that's all good. But, regardless of whether Grayson made opening day or not, Sagano is probably in the American League East, bottom of the rotation, maybe a 2 times through the order, Kenshin Sid kind of guy, from what I can tell. And that's fine. But that's what you were probably going to get out of him regardless. And so to think that, that he could be a ton more than that now that Grayson's gone, I don't know about that. But because, Grayson's got, as we know, has big time stuff. And you're hoping that this was the year that it would all come together and that he would throw 30-plus times and he would look like a top of the rotation guy. And again, another bump in the road with him. It's unfortunate that we haven't been able to see it over the course of the full major league season.
It makes you start to doubt whether or not like that ascent to being a top. You wonder if it's ever gonna happen for Grayson Rodriguez, given everything he's been through. What else has caught your eye your first couple of days down in Sarasota, Luke?
Well, I had been told that Brian Baker looked really good prior to his outing when he gave up 3 home runs. Now the velocity for him has been good, but and he's a guy that they might need because Kittredge is on the shelf for a while. The irony, of course, there is that Kittredge, I guess, was the pivot off of health risk Jeff Hoffman, right?
Yeah, boy, he's ready. He's got guns blazing, right? Like he's coming out. He's coming out firing. He's can't wait. He's trying to play the Orioles every game this season.
What else? Like everyone else, I think Adley physically looks really good, and I think he's in a good spot to have a bounce back season. I know Eric Kratz came on your show and was very, very confident about that, and I can see why. He physically looks really good, and so that's probably one of the best developments at camp. I think everyone expected Adley to come to camp very, very motivated, and that seems to be the case.
What else are we expecting? What do you have in the pipeline for this week? We saw the Sagano story today. What else are you thinking about during the course of the week?
I was working on a lot of stuff for our April issue yesterday, so that was a big focus of mine, and so that readers will be able to see that down the line. And then Stan and I will be in Bradenton tonight for Orioles and Pirates, and we will have reaction to that game afterward.
Very good. Luke Jackson, appreciate you, pal. Make sure everybody's checking out Facebook.com/PressBoxSports, PressBoxOnline.com. All throughout the week as Stan and Luke are live at Orioles spring training. We'll try to catch up with you again later on in the week. Thanks, buddy.
All right, go Tigers, Griffin.
Thanks.
Fired up about tonight. Towson, Delaware, 6 o'clock. CAA semifinals, trying to finally get into, no pun intended, the CAA final. See what I did there. All right, we'll grab a break. When we come back in, it's Monday. Jeremy Conn will check in with us. He said something that was so funny on their show this morning about cancer. Stay with me. We'll talk about it when we come back in. It's Glenn Clark Radio.
March is a slam dunk at Live Casino. Catch all the basketball action and more at Sports and Social. Enter our $80,000 Dolce & Gabbana giveaway on March 28th. And catch the Baltimore baseball jersey giveaway March 31st. Take your shot at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. At Arundel Mills, must be 21. Please play responsibly. For help, visit mdgamblinghelp.org or call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Driving in Maryland? Did you know an Easy Pass from driveeasymd.com can save you time and money? Of course you did, because you are a thrifty driver. An antenna reads your Easy Pass transponder and automatically deducts the toll from your Easy Pass account. Learn more at driveeasymd.com.
Treat yourself and taste the Baltimore tradition that is the legendary Costas Inn. Hey, it's Stan the Fan Charles. For over 50 years, the Costas Inn has been a Baltimore original, dishing out their amazingly scrumptious, fat, award-winning crab cakes and steamed crabs. Every season is crab season at Costas, so make your plans now by calling 410-477-1975 and reserve your taste of heaven. Sit back, crack some crabs, and watch the Ravens chase down another title on Costas' 15 TVs. On Monday nights, Costas offers their half-pound jumbo lump crab cake with 2 sides for under $30, and there are nightly specials Monday through Friday. So head on down to the Costas Inn at 4100 North Point Boulevard or visit them at costasinn.com.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
COVID-19 and flu viruses are circulating in Maryland. But don't worry, protection is within arm's reach. Protect your health with this year's COVID-19 and flu shots. It's safe and convenient to get them both at the same time. Flex your protection. For more information, visit health.maryland.gov/vaccines.
This message paid for by the Maryland Department of Health.
Coming back in here with Glenn and the other guy, Garrett, whatever his name is. You know who they are.
All right, back in here on GCRs, continue on a Monday edition of the program. Still trying to get my equilibrium about me. It's good when you're I'm like afraid to stand back up.
Am I gonna have to like walk you to your car?
I don't know, man. I'm telling you, when I woke up this morning, it was like I fell on my way to the bathroom. That happened.
That doesn't seem.
I fell.
Ideal.
I said, am I 41 or am I 91? Like, this is bad. And I like yelled out, "Oh my God!" And I didn't know my wife was home. My wife came like running in like there was a crisis, like she had to take care of her invalid husband.
Well, at least you know that.
Yeah.
She would.
Oh, I'm not really sure if it was more like she was interested in what was happening, but if it required her to do something, she would have been like, "Let me call somebody." It's just a scene. Like, there was a real moment where I was like, am I going to have to do the show from home? Like, am I going to have to say I can't go in today and just do the show from home? It's not the case, so I don't know. I'm still learning a lot more about it. God, I hate this. This sucks. I know there's people that are listening that are much older than me that are like, yeah, we've all been through this. Like, why are you complaining? But damn, dude, this still sucks. Hey. All right. I don't know. Jeremy maybe is joining us, perhaps. He sometimes just has other things going on. But oh man. If he doesn't answer, then pull up your email. Because all right. Pull up your email over here on this one. There's no video that comes along with this.
All right.
I mentioned at the top of the show, we got a submission. I said on last Friday's show that we need a jingle. We need a tune. And our friend, Chris Erich, sent us a tune. Now, I have not heard this tune. I purposely did this because I wanted it to be something that I heard and I wanted to react to it live. If it's just like an electronic music beat, then fine. Chris is more of a traditional musician. That's why I'm expecting that it's going to be something else. Chris is more of a, guitar man. So I don't know what this is going to be.
A guitar man.
Yeah, a guitar man. I don't know what this is going to be, but we'll see how we feel about it as potentially being the new open that we use for GCR. Oh, of course, Jeremy's calling right back. I tell him he's going to have to deal with this for a second. This is what we're doing right now. You got it? All right, go ahead. Yeah, I'm ready. Go ahead.
Glenn Clark Radio, talking about the sports you do and don't know, both within and surrounding Baltimore. Don't ask him about preseason games, oh no.
Don't do that.
Stuffing things and Griffin low.
I didn't catch what he said there. I heard your name.
Being on the internet, he can call it what he wants, so Glenn Clark Radio. Glenn Clark Radio. Glenn Clark Radio.
I like it.
I know.
I like it. Chris, if I could ask for two things. That's great. Duke sucks at the end. All right, two things. Here's what jumps out. Can you do a version where you maybe amplify the lyrics a little bit more, just so we can? Because like the one line about Griffin, I couldn't understand it. I'm sorry, and I'm sure it was great. I just didn't catch it. And then secondly, I feel like it still needs like a little bit more of the guitar at the end. Like it still needs a bed at the end of it to get us into the show. Or we just find a bed that we can use to go from the song to the show. I still think it needs a little bit more of a transition. But I love it. I love it, and I think it's on the table to be used as our new show open moving forward. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Chris.
We'll take
I
more
enjoyed it.
submissions for potential show opens, because if you missed it, Facebook doesn't like any of the songs that we've been using as show opens and has dinged us for them. We'll take more submissions, but right now I would say Chris is by far, considering he's the only one, the leader in the clubhouse at the moment. Joining us now here on GCR, it's Monday. Every Monday we talk to our buddy, and I need to tell him that he said something that legitimately was pee your pants funny this morning. From the Big Bad Morning Show over on the Fan, ConcreteLocks.com, he's our pal Jeremy Conn. What's going on, buddy?
What's up, man? Sorry about that. So basically what happens with me is I do these PNC Bank Achiever where I interview high school kids about their, it's like a 2-minute interview, but sometimes it takes a little bit longer. And when the sales guy puts it on the schedule, it always shows up at the end time. So it was on the schedule for noon today. So I texted Griffin and said, hey,
I got to wrap up by noon. Yeah,
noon.
Right?
And then I look at it and it says, oh, it starts at 11:40. This is wonderful.
That's not great. That's not ideal timing. Well, I love you. First of all,
they're all throughout the week, and one will be at 3:20, another one will be at 5:30, one will be at 11. They're all over the place.
Well, thankfully, we live in an era where talent is respected and where people understand the value of you.
Talent.
Two things.
What respect?
Yeah, first of all, I saw that you were reporting live from my bathtub this morning, which seems odd.
Yeah, did you like that? I figured that would be a setup for you.
That's exactly how I do things. We never came around to it, and Griffin, you tell me if we can do it. Maybe for we do it as part of the NCAA pool. Did you see last week the Miami Villanova baseball thing?
Oh wait, yeah.
They did a cheesesteak milkshake.
Ugh.
Oh yeah, I did see that picture online. That looks awful.
Yeah. And so I suggested to Griffin that we do that as a side bet for something, that we make our own version of but I don't know what it would be.
Yeah,
we just got to come up with what it would be. And then I worry that it's somehow really not even that bad. But it just looks so awful. It just looks like a crime against humanity.
Don't you feel like there's certain things that look like they don't go together, and at times it kind of works? I've talked about, people look at certain things. Like we had a pizza that had caramel and walnuts on it, and it was delicious. Yeah.
Wait.
That was at Joe Squared.
Hang on a second. Was it red sauce on the pizza?
Was there red sauce? I don't
Or was
think
it was
so.
the caramel underneath? Was it crust, caramel, cheese, and walnuts?
No, I think that's basically what it was.
Okay,
and then there was some herbs and seasonings on it. But when people would look at that, they're like, I don't want caramel and nuts on my pizza.
No, I don't want it either, but I could see that working, right? I could see
peanut butter and jelly wings work because the peanut butter makes them super crispy. And
yes.
I don't know, it just works.
I agree with that. There was one that was presented to me recently. One of the teams that I work with, the goalie on that team says before every game she eats a pasta with red sauce and corn. And I said, no, that's an abomination. No, there's just no way. But she swears by it, and then her father started reaching out to me like, no, you're going to try it, and you're going to love it. And I'm like, I just don't believe that. There's just no way that that's good. There's just red sauce and corn? Why? Why?
Yeah, it's weird that I'm willing to try a lot of this stuff, but I was the kid that my food couldn't touch.
I
ain't eating it.
Oh, my wife was the same way apparently growing up. I hear that all the time. We'll go over to her mom's house for spaghetti, and her mom will tell me about how when my wife was a kid, she literally had to have noodles in one bowl, sauce in another bowl. Nothing could. I'm like, this is some psychopathic behavior. Did you ever?
Yeah, she might be a sociopath. I don't know.
She married. For God's sakes, right? Also, I was gonna take what I could get, Jeremy. Somebody said, "Hey, she's a sociopath." It's that line in "I Just Had Sex" by The Lonely Island, where they're like, "I think she might have been a racist." Still counts.
Yeah, it's like that ongoing chart of how crazy you are and how good you are in bed, and
right.
how you got to find one somewhere in the middle. Yeah,
100%.
So,
there's no doubt.
But I had an incident like you were talking about. My babysitter, when I was a kid, my food was touching, and I said I wouldn't eat it. And she comes over and she was mad, and she stirred it all up in a big, took everything and put it almost like a KFC bowl and just mixed everything up. Took a bite of it. She goes, "Eat that." I said, "Nope." And I sat there for 4
not
hours
happening.
until my
Yeah,
parents picked me up.
100%. That's the way it was gonna go. Okay, so I need to tell you that you said something this morning, and you deserved better than the reaction that you got. And admittedly, I didn't hear it when I didn't hear it when it was live. I heard it because you use it as what do you guys?
In the encore.
Yeah. So for those that don't know, our buddy Ed Norris is dealing with melanoma, and you guys said it's given the circumstances, it's a fairly good prognosis, correct?
Yeah, it's stage 2. They think they found it early. It's on the middle of Ed's back, so like you worry about those things. Like you need somebody to see it, you know, to kind of let you know.
So Ed's telling this story. He's talking about how I would have never known. It's the middle of my back, and within a tattoo that he has on his back, and he needed his wife to notice it. And what you said in response, and this is where I give you, why I'm a Jeremy Conn fan from the get-go is because the gift that you have that so few of us have that do this for a living is the quickness of your wit, which was to say, and this is Jeremy's response, thank God you said yes to the pegging.
I don't think Molesky knew what that was.
And that was
Ed
the
started
thing. You
laughing.
got, but Ed's, like, you couldn't even hear. Ed was laughing in that way that he does, where, like, it's not boisterous laughing. It's just, like, the sort of, like, he knows.
Well,
and then Molesky gave you nothing. No disrespect to him. I was furious because in my car, I was slapping my knee.
There was another one in there, too. So, like, just full disclosure, like, I've known about Ed's cancer diagnosis for, 2 weeks now. And, like, I've had him over my house, and we've talked about it. And one of the things I try to do...
For more pegging. Exactly right. That was
I was giving him a second opinion on that pegging. No, but, like, you know, I don't want people to think that I don't, like, care about him or anything. We've clearly had these conversations. But one of the things I like to do is try to make somebody laugh when they're feeling bad. And sometimes it's at your own expense, sometimes it's at mine. But when Ed called in earlier and he told us that he had cancer, well, that's not exactly what he said, because I repeated and said, man, I'm sorry to hear. Did you go to see a doctor in New York? Because you're the first guy I ever heard got cancer.
Yeah.
And, and you know, like we have these conversations, and Ed knows I was busting his chops. I was so worried that somebody out there would go, you're so insensitive. Well, yeah, but not.
Right.
You know,
yeah, correct. Yes, you just don't know that. You don't know the entirety of the situation. 100%. No, for what it's worth, I would. The cancer one was good. The pegging one, that's 10 and a half. That's a 10 and a half.
Our producer Joe lost it.
Yeah,
so,
it was really good, man. Like that one, and you deserved a better fate than what you got in that moment. You deserve.
Well, so when I did stand up, like. And it's a little bit more difficult because it's so repetitive, and you're writing, you know, you're constantly trying to write. And I'm one of those guys, like, I don't eat the same meal twice in a day or twice in a week, let alone, you know, do the same thing over and over and over again. The thing that I loved about radio is that I could be quick-witted and try to say something that I think's funny. And it may not go over well, and I just don't know. I don't know if anybody laughed at it. So I just keep throwing out crappy jokes.
So good. Oh, 10 and a half, man. Well done. Well done, buddy. Well done. All right. On a scale of 10 to 10, how panicked are you about Grayson Rodriguez?
I mean, look, I got to be high up there.
Yeah.
You know, like it seems – so here's my thought process, because I feel like if he's fine and he's able to pitch this year, much like – the same thing happened with Garrett Cole last year, I think eventually he's going to have it. And I'm not a doctor. I obviously don't know anything, but you start watching these guys and you hear the verbiage that they use, like, oh yeah, we're going to monitor this, and we don't want him to do anything for 7 to 10 days. He got a cortisone shot and not a PRP injection, which that makes me happier, but eventually he may go the PRP route, and we'll have to see what it is. Maybe it is just a little inflammation and you can be hopeful, but I'm not going to hang my hat on hope right here when it comes to Grayson Rodriguez.
This is the issue that I have, right? Like, and maybe it is. Maybe everything's on the up and up, but it didn't start on the up and up. Like, it started with nothing's wrong. It started with, and then it went to, triceps, and then it ended up like, you can't help it. Like, you just can't help but just say, I assume this is the worst. And the problem was, even with like a healthy Grayson Rodriguez, we were all confused about whether or not the Orioles had enough pitching to be able to compete. And while, it's probably not that I'm ever rooting for an injury, certainly the AL East looks less daunting given what the Yankees are dealing with pitching-wise, but that doesn't solve the Orioles' problems. And so now I come back to the answer isn't, well, go add in Kyle Gibson, which doesn't mean that they might not go add in Kyle Gibson. They might, but that's not the answer. The answer was you needed to be doing more in the offseason, and it might require you to do something you don't want to do, but at some point, having all of this talent has to translate to putting the best possible foot forward towards winning a World Series, and it's really hard-pressed for me to look at this rotation and believe that they can do that right now.
I mean, look, I still think they're fine. It's I don't want to miss Grayson this year, and you have plenty of time to do something. I thought Molesky, who was filling in this morning, made a great point. They came into camp with what they believe to be 10 starters, and now McDermott is hurt. You look at Grayson being hurt, and of course, Trevor Rogers
is hurt. Yeah,
he's hurt. So you're down to the 7, and I think they do have to bring in another pitcher. If it is a Kyle Gibson or someone, so be it. But I don't want to see them make the knee-jerk reaction and give up way too much to go get one of these rentals. But I know fans want that. See, I just think it's such a long season that this has time to kind of work itself out. But, if you were going to sit here and knock this team, I guess you could look in the offseason and say, hey, you should have got a more formidable pitcher. Even though Bradish is coming back in the middle of the season, that's what people wanted. When people were bitching about the Gunnar injury, it's I can't believe they don't have – do you have an all-star shortstop waiting behind him?
Yeah, that's a different conversation, right? You can't.
Yeah, but starting pitching, you can't have enough of it.
Yeah, you knew you needed, and to say they think they had 10 pitch. Well, yeah, but again, you're counting Chase McDermott, Albert Suarez, Trevor Rogers among that, which doesn't mean that one of those guys can't be, because nobody thought Albert Suarez was a year ago. But you're not relying on that, and that's the issue that I have is the inactivity of the offseason is why I do think you're now required to pay a tax. It wasn't my. I don't want you to have to do, because you're right. It's crazy to think that you're going to trade a Kobe Mayo in order to go get 1 year of Dylan Cease. But you didn't have to do that if you had, gone and got pitching this offseason.
You know what the rumor was? That all they wanted was Chase McDermott, and they said no.
I thought it was that they wanted that Chase McDermott was the part that they balked on. But I thought there was something else involved.
Again, these are until you hear it from the team, and they're not going to tell us anything.
Never.
Right, the source that I and the person that I read said that the Orioles weren't willing to give up McDermott in a trade for Cease. And I'm going, man, they must think really highly of him.
Oh, and I think they do, and that's all well and good. And I'm not, but what's that? What does that do for you? This thing where making the most responsible decisions. It sounds great, and I don't know if there's a GM conference where they get together and they award a plaque to whoever the GM was that made the best and most responsible decisions of the year, and maybe they do, and that's a big source of pride for Mike Elias, and that's all well and good.
The fiscally responsible award.
Correct,
is what you're talking
but
about.
I just don't give a rat's ass about it, and it's not. I agree that it would be reckless to do certain things, but. That's where you are to me. I know what you're saying, and I'm not telling you that you're wrong. Mm-hmm. It could very well be that Sagano, who I know has looked great in the spring, is ready to really be an impact major league starter, and that Charlie Morton can be a better version of Charlie Morton. That's possible.
Yeah, but, I mean, those are all at the end of hope, right? If all those things go right, then this can be just perfectly fine. You don't have to worry about it. Bradish comes back in the middle of the year.
Right.
Everything's okay. But that's if everything goes right.
And then there's a lot of things that we're looking at as positives that also could, Zach Eflin was the best version of Zach Eflin when he arrived in Baltimore last year. What if Zach Eflin isn't that version of Zach Eflin this season? Which to me,
I had somebody point out that Charlie Morton, if you look at his numbers, he's been better than Dean Kramer, and everybody's like, "Oh, Dean Kramer, middle of the rotation," and now you're asking him to be a 2 on this team or
something like that. Yeah. Yes, exactly right.
But you brought up the injury thing, and this is my big gripe with the Orioles because it feels like every time someone gets hurt, they downplay it right off the bat, and I don't know if they're getting out of the Harbaugh school of injuries or whatever. You don't let anybody know how bad off you are.
Right.
And maybe that has something to do with trades and things when you start to call, because if they know Grayson's out for the year, then all of a sudden they're going to be like, oh, you guys really need a pitcher now, huh?
Yep.
The Yankees right now are desperate.
Yes. Oh, 100% they're desperate. There's no question. And I do think that has something to do with it. And I'm not angry. I really am not. It's a weird feeling that I have. I've gotten over it. It's like when people get mad that the Ravens don't answer questions. That's just the way it is now. They don't have to. They don't respect you. I'm sorry. And I mean that with all due respect to them. Because
they respect you, just they don't.
I respect some of you. They don't. They don't respect any of it. And they've realized they're the hot chick. Like, you're coming back. It doesn't really matter if they answer questions or not. And so I feel sort of the same way about, like, these major professional sports teams are worth billions of dollars, and we're peasants. And that's just what it is. And they don't like that I'm saying that out loud, but I assure you that's the way they think. They don't
you're saying
care.
The quiet part out loud. It's like when we talk about politics now and somebody's crapping on the other one and you're crapping on this one, when it's like, hey, maybe both you guys are right and neither party's good.
Yeah, I mean, that part is definitely – I mean, that part for sure is correct. There's no doubt. And 100%, like the one internet meme that has worked for me is like falling in love with a politician is like falling in love with a stripper. They don't care about you. They don't. None of them do. None of them.
Some of them, like when I go to the strip club, they always want me to come over.
They do.
They're trying to take me in the back all the time. Like, they like me.
I swear to God, man. I was on Facebook the other day and somebody popped up. And I was like, who is this? And I don't know if you go through this with like your feed because like you've friended listeners over the years.
Yeah.
And then somebody pops up and you're like, I don't know who this person is. And I every now and then, because I'm at 5,000, go try to delete people that I just said, I don't know who this person is. I don't know why I ever approved them. And so somebody popped up and I was like, who is this person? And I think maybe my like wife was looking at my phone and she's like, who is that? And I'm just sitting there racking my brain and I can't come up with it. And then like a day later it hit me that we were out for someone's bachelor party and like I had separated myself. I wasn't going crazy this night and I had removed and a couple of us had gone up and found a table upstairs kind of away from the fray. And one of the girls came over and was like, you could use a naked girl on your table. And we were like, yeah, we can. But we were kind of – and then she just started talking, sitting there completely naked, going on about her like kids and like the Catholic school that she thought that I should send my kids to and all of this. And like finally after like 30 minutes and them saying like, you've got to go back to work. She said, we need to keep in touch. And she took my phone and added herself as a friend on Facebook because we were going to stay in touch. And I'm
friends with a stripper.
I definitely had that moment. I was like, oh, that was the stripper. That's who that
I've had
was.
those moments too, but usually it's something really creepy though, because like I tend to give my phone number out to way too many people.
Oh, yeah, you got it. Yeah, yeah.
And I had one guy that was posting so much negative stuff and things that I'm just like, I hate this. Oh, God, please get this off my feed. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to delete him as a friend. And then I realized during the whole thing with Mo, he couldn't have been more helpful and like involved. And I'm like, all right, so we disagree on a lot of things, but he was there, so he gets to stay on the friend list and I'll just ignore it, you know?
Yeah, that's rough.
Yeah,
that's
so
rough.
You get some of those. You got friends with a stripper, and I got friends with some random dude that's probably living in his mom's basement, but it's okay.
Yeah, I mean that's no. That's in fact. I mean, is he hot? I
mean, he hasn't invited me down to the basement yet, so that's when we really get to know each other.
I get it.
No, but by the way, I heard so you're coming up with the theme song for your show.
We've used all these like royalty-free music beds over the years because like we always got in trouble for using real songs. Like I can't. For years on the radio show, This Town by OAR was my open, and like they loved it, and they would hit me up all the time, like, "Dude, we were in Spokane today, and some guy came up to me and was like, I discovered you because of that the guy in Baltimore." They loved it, but I can't call Mark Zuckerberg and say I have permission from the band to use this song. It just doesn't work that way. If they discover it on Facebook, they ding you for it, and they make you share revenue. With
Do you mean call the Winklevoss twins?
That's if you don't mind checking in with the Winklevi, like if you couldn't give them.
By the way, I was thinking about writing, and I don't even know if you could do it. Can you take the instrumentals from a song and put new lyrics over it, or no?
Do like a Weird Al bit? You're suggesting?
Yeah, because I'm saying, like, to me, I was thinking GCR sounds quite a bit like CCR.
Okay.
And then taking some credence and changing the lyrics and making it funny.
I'm listening to this. There could be something here. I'm listening to that.
Let me get to work on this to see if I can put something together. You might want somebody else to sing it, or maybe it's even better if I have a bad voice.
I think it might be better if you sing it. I think it might be better if you're the one singing
Well, let me see if I can't put something together and get you like a good 30, 40 seconds to open the show.
I love it. I love it.
But yeah.
All right, what's your deal this week?
So this week I've got I'm filling in for Rob with Pathfinders for Autism at Topgolf. So I'll be out and about doing that. Anybody can come down if you want. That's now I got to check the date. That's Thursday night, I believe. Yeah, I think I'm almost positive it's Thursday. Next week on the 20th, we have that event at Jimmy's Seafood for Mo. They're still selling tickets to that, and people can make donations. I've shared a bunch of it on my social media. You guys can check it out if you want. Here, as I'm in front of the computer, I can probably just grab the name of this company, but that I'm working with. And sometimes when you're working with nonprofits, Glenn, you're like, you do wonder, okay, who's controlling the money? Where's it going? All that stuff. I've got no doubt about this company. The guy that started it, his wife passed away due to cancer, and all he's done is try to help out families that have, can't afford their bills and things like that. But the name of this place is it's bringinghopehome.org. Bringinghopehome.org. So you can go on there, and then if you want to buy tickets, or even if you just want to donate, or even if you just want to see what they're about, check it out. And then, of course, it's me tomorrow and Wednesday with Bruce Cunningham. Thursday, Molesky comes back in, and on Friday, I get the job to try to reel in Jimmy Patos for 4 hours.
Good Lord. At 6 in the morning? Oh, my God.
And he shot out of a cannon, man.
Holy crap. I do not. He's going to come in flying. I don't know.
I just told him one microphone. We don't need it. Just let him go.
No doubt.
Turn it on.
At JCon Sports, ConcreteLocks.com. Of course, that's where you find him in the Big Bad Morning Show. Love you, buddy. Appreciate you. We'll talk again next week, all right?
Thanks, man.
Jeremy Conn with us here on GCR. God. Patsos for 4 hours at 6 a.m. Oh, my God.
Sounds like I'm gonna have to get up early that morning.
Yeah, that'll be a treat. All right. Anything that we didn't cover? I feel like we got to everything we needed to get to.
No.
I mean, obviously it's 12 o'clock, so do you know where your favorite football player is? I would like to, but Twitter doesn't work.
Yeah, Twitter does not work. So literally, free agency technically hasn't started yet. I think.
Is that they just delay it until Twitter works?
It just hasn't.
Does like the phone version of Twitter work, or is
no? Actually, I don't know.
I
haven't even tried my phone, but because I've been texting my friends and they said they've been texting and they also cannot get updates. So I assume
this
that
is a big.
means.
Do you think this is big television? Do you think this is like a conspiracy by ESPN and NFL Network to try to take down Twitter so people have to come watch?
Nah, I think it's just
television.
I think it's just Twitter sucks.
Well, it might be that, but I also think that's.
I think it's just Twitter sucks.
I always have questions. Always have questions.
Before it went down, the Steelers placed a second-round restricted tender on Jaylen Warren. So he is a restricted free agent, right? Yeah, so he's back.
Okay.
Yeah.
By the way, I mentioned that Dan Moore was apparently another Moore. Jaylen Moore is going to the Chiefs.
Oh, J.C. Horn. You see J.C. Horn.
I did see that. Hassan Reddick to the Bucks for 1 year.
Okay.
That, like, if you were looking for one edge rusher that, like, you could argue was still impactful, I would have been willing to scratch the itch on Hassan Reddick.
Until camp starts, and then he's like, actually, I think I want more.
Yeah.
Dylan Tate signed with a minor league deal with the Blue Jays.
That's
the opposite of football, but that happened.
By the way, the one guy that we thought was going to go to free agency, Khalil Mack, did not make it to free agency.
Correct, yeah.
1 year, $18 million deal. Former Raven Ben Bredesen goes to the Buccaneers. They were certainly not going to pay him that money. There you go. That's what's going on. That you can't follow on Twitter. All the days. All right. Very good. Let's get a tidbit. Tidbit is brought to you today by the print issue of PressBox, which is available for free at your neighborhood Royal Farms and the hundreds of locations around town where you find PressBox. Read it all. PressBoxOnline.com. David Rubenstein on the cover. Stan and I had a lengthy sit down with the new Orioles owner. Go pick that up today. What was Proctor saying? Oh, Bernie cares. Yeah, I'm sure.
He does.
The politicians don't care about you.
Bernard Sanders does.
They care about themselves.
Bernie doesn't.
Their interests.
No, he doesn't.
They care about
Bernie
all
cares
of them.
about everyone but himself.
All of them.
Everyone but himself. Don't
Every single one.
slander Bernie like that. I probably would have had like a few more, but a lot of my tidbits are saved on Twitter. So I do I still do have a couple here. So we were talking about SGA.
Griffin just trying to figure out something that's racked around in his brain. He was like, "Do you know what I had for dinner last night?"
SGA is coming off of again a pretty great stretch. 43, or he's had back-to-back 40-point games. So 3 straight 40-point games. and he is the first player in NBA history to score 40 points in 3 straight without missing a free throw in any of those 3 games. He is like
more of an anomaly than anything else, but
probably. But he's like 28 of 28 from the line in the last 3 games, while also scoring like 120, 130 points over the last 3 games as well. So yeah, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, pretty good. Jokic also made history on Friday night. Became the first player to drop a 30-20-20 game. 30 points.
I did, yeah. It was
20.
Against the Suns, so I don't want to talk about it.
Well,
asshole.
too bad. We're going to talk about it because it's pretty
Kevin Durant
incredible.
hits a big shot to force overtime. I'm like, maybe the season's not over. Maybe this could be the moment.
First player also to record a triple-double in both halves of a game. He had a triple-double in the first half and then separate the second half. He also had a triple-double in the second half alone. Because it was like it was a pretty ridiculous Nikola Jokic game. So not only becoming the first 30-20-20 player ever, he also became just the 3rd player ever with a 20-20-20 game. Only 2 other players have ever had a 20-20-20.
So that's tricky because I think it takes point guard. No, it doesn't take point guard. Who does it take out of the equation? Like, is it more likely to take big men out of the equation because they're not going to get 20 assists, or is it more likely to take point guards out of the equation because they're not going to get 20 rebounds? This is a good. Well, maybe I'll just stick with wings. How about LeBron?
LeBron has not done this. You're just trying to push your anti-LeBron agenda, huh?
Yeah,
you knew he wasn't
exactly
going to be on there.
How about Oscar Robertson?
Not Oscar Robertson.
Starting to think we asked these triple-double questions. I should guess guys besides Oscar Robertson, but he was really good at them. Russell Westbrook.
Russell Westbrook accomplished this in April
So
of 2019.
That's a little, like, to think that he got 20 rebounds, right?
Yeah, I mean, who knows what the circumstances were, but yeah, it was April 2nd, 2019 against the Lakers when he was back. He was still with the Thunder. 20 points, 20 rebounds, 21 assists.
So now you're forced to wonder if, like, there is a big man who somehow had 20 assists in a game.
Jokic did it.
Yeah, but Jokic is, I don't know. There's a term that I just came up for him. I think he's like a unicorn. Have you ever heard that? You ever? Just came up with that right now. Tim Duncan.
Not Tim Duncan.
How about Kareem Abdul-Jabbar?
Not Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Okay. How about my God? How about Magic?
Not Magic.
Wilt Chamberlain.
Wilt Chamberlain in 1968.
Is the answer?
Yes,
Oh, wow.
he is the answer. Wilt Chamberlain, 22 points, 25 rebounds, and 21 assists with the 76ers in 1968 against the Detroit Pistons.
So there's not really like the thing about that is that like, those are guys that you associate with triple doubles, right? Like they're not.
They just kind of had.
Like
I was
like prepared for this to be something super random, you know, like Marcus Camby did that. No, Jason Kidd is someone you associate with triple doubles. That's not that wouldn't be super random. Like I think all those guys are among the. I would bet all of them are in the top 10 of
like most
triple doubles all time.
Probably.
I would bet that they're all, including Jason Kidd. I would bet they're all on the list of the most triple doubles of all time.
Have we done this before?
Probably. Yeah. I mean, feels like we had to have.
I don't know.
Do you have it?
Yes, I have it. I have the top. I got the top 5 here.
And Westbrook's number 1.
Westbrook is number 1, over 200 triple doubles.
And I know Oscar Robertson's on the list.
He's number 2.
Okay. I don't know who. I don't know after that.
181.
But are they all on the list?
I mean, yeah. Yes, I see them all on the list. They're not all top 5.
They're not all top 5. Okay, but that said top 10.
Do you want to keep guessing, or do you want to save this for tomorrow?
Oh, for Christ's sakes.
Maybe Twitter will still be down, so yeah, maybe I should pocket this one.
Yeah, you might want to think about pocketing it. But I'm guessing all the exact same guys. Magic Johnson.
Magic is top 4.
Okay. Jokic.
Jokic is 3rd, yes.
Okay.
So there's your top 4.
LeBron James.
LeBron is 5th.
Jason Kidd.
Jason Kidd is 6th.
Oh, I'm hot.
He is hot.
But Wilt Chamberlain.
Wilt Chamberlain is not 7th.
Damn.
He is 9th.
Is 7 somebody we've named? Have we named all
We have not said his name yet.
James Harden.
At least not in Tidbit, but I feel like his name has been mentioned during the show. James Harden is 8th.
Oh, son of a bitch. Still. Somebody we mentioned during the show.
Yeah.
It's not SGA. Anthony. No, it's not Anthony. Oh, Luka.
Yep, Luka at 7. Luka at 7. So Wilt at 9 to round out the top 10 most triple doubles ever. We would not mention him.
Mentioned Steve Nash.
Nope.
Kevin Durant.
Not KD.
Kevin Garnett.
Not KG.
All right, help me out here.
He is active.
He's active. Giannis.
Not Giannis. Giannis is 12th.
Chris Paul.
Not Chris Paul. Crisp Paul. Not Chris Paul. He's outside the top 25.
I don't know that I'm getting this one. All right, give me something else.
He is
Kawhi.
Not Kawhi. He's on a Western Conference team. I didn't know Kawhi was back to playing basketball.
I didn't know that either.
Until this past weekend.
I didn't know that until 5 seconds ago.
Oh, okay. There was some highlight. He made
Western
some play.
Conference team.
He knocked down like a big shot Saturday, I want to say.
Is he a Laker?
He is not a Laker.
Is he a Clipper?
He is not a Clipper.
Is he a Warrior?
He's not a Warrior.
Is he a King?
Yeah, he is.
Oh, Sabonis.
Domantas Sabonis with 66 triple
kind of crazy that he's in the top 10 of all time. That is kind of nuts.
66 triple doubles. He does a lot of those 10-10-10 games.
Yeah, sure. All right, very good. Let's why don't we get a tidbit? Or no, we did tidbit. Why don't we get tubular then?
Have you ever thought of taking a cruise to these wonderful destinations with sunny skies and beautiful beaches? Well, wait no longer. We're ready for you to cruise from the Cruise Maryland Terminal.
Have a little phrase that you can go from baggage to margarita in about 15 minutes.
Choose fun with an array of destinations, onboard activities, entertainment, and world-class cuisine.
Contact your travel agent and book your cruise today. Let your adventure begin.
All right, here's what's coming up tonight, totally tubular-wise. Obviously, the big one, Towson, Delaware, CAA semifinals tonight, 6 o'clock on CBS Sports Network. If they win, they would get the winner of Wilmington-Charleston, which is the second semifinal tonight in the championship game tomorrow night. If you can get down to D.C., get down to D.C., semifinals tonight. Hopkins tries to avenge. Yeah, we didn't really do a lacrosse. We'll do that more with Patrick tomorrow. Everybody lost except for Maryland locally. Hopkins lost to Syracuse, had a lead late. Towson lost to Virginia. I don't remember who UMBC played. Richmond, I think, right? And they lost that. Loyola falls to 0-6. And that was a heartbreaker. Again, they lost by a goal at Providence. It's their third one-goal loss of the season.
You think we got to change the broadcaster?
I didn't do this, so
I know, but
yeah, it's not that. This one is not on me, dog.
You say that.
Not on me. Yeah, it was a brutal. Navy lost to Lehigh on Friday. It was a rough weekend. You know who didn't lose? Stevenson went on the road. Went on the road, proving that the broadcaster is not the problem. Went on the road, Dickinson. Who? Thank you to Dickinson for having me up. That was a fun day, and Stevenson got a good road win, and I had to try to stay 50-50 the whole time, and I think I did a pretty good job of that. Yeah, rough weekend. But Hopkins, Syracuse women's lacrosse today, 4 o'clock on ESPNU. Also, Orioles Pirates, they're on TV today, so you get that chance to look at Matt Bowman.
Yes.
Hell yeah.
Remember we liked him for a minute last year.
For a minute. Matt Bowman and Andrew Heaney, who I had already forgotten, signed with the Pirates. That's at on Masson at 6:05. Two more NCAA tournament bursts we punch tonight. The Sun Belt Championship on ESPN2 at 7, Arkansas State and Troy. And on ESPN, the SoCon Championship, Wofford and Furman at 7 o'clock. Gonzaga and St. Mary's both play in WCC semifinals tonight. Gonzaga against San Francisco, 11:30 on ESPN2. St. Mary's against Pepperdine at 9 on ESPN. Monumental Wizards Raptors, 7:30. The rest of college basketball, go to GlennClarkRadio.com. Monumental Wizards Raptors, 7:30. NBA TV Nuggets Thunder at 8. Knicks Kings at 10:30. ESPN Plus and Hulu for Oilers Sabres at 7. USA for West Ham United and Newcastle United at 4. TNT for Unrivaled tonight at 7:30. Tennis Channel, more coverage from Indian Wells starting at 2. MLB Network, Phillies Pirates at 1. Cardinals Mets at 6. Netflix for WWE Monday Night Raw tonight at 8. Non-sports.
You didn't highlight the Big Sky games, of course.
Yeah. Okay. Non-sports.
Because you know how they call the Missouri Valley Championship. They call it Arch Madness because they always play in St. Louis. They play this in Boise.
Yeah.
So they call it Starch
because of potatoes. Yes, that's
Starch Madness.
That does work. Now,
an episode of The Bachelor.
By the way, the Gemstones premiere last night. Aces. Utterly aces.
Good to hear.
All I will tell you is it didn't involve any of the cast of Righteous Gemstones.
Oh.
They were not involved whatsoever with the first episode of Righteous Gemstones, and no one is mad about it.
Wow.
Well, they shouldn't be. It was phenomenal.
Very good. Very good. I'm
A
happy
major,
for you.
a major Hollywood star was the centerpiece of this episode.
Brad Pitt.
No, but Brad
Johnson.
Lee.
Bradley. I'm trying to think of other Bradleys just to make this fun.
No, okay. All right.
Bradley Cooper.
Yes, obviously.
Wow,
Yeah.
impressive.
It was great.
Rocket
It was
Raccoon.
Phenomenal.
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 Your boy, new episode of your boy Bill Simmons' Celtic City on HBO. And then Netflix has a new American Manhunt, Osama bin Laden. That'll be
okay.
on
I gotta
Netflix.
watch we got today. That's you get to watch Gabby Petito with me today because
okay.
that's what we're doing for book club tomorrow.
Got it.
Yeah.
Late night stuff, not really. John Mulaney and Jack Quaid.
Oh yes, they are promoting Gabby Petito. That's what they're plugging.
Promoting Gabby Petito.
Yeah, they are.
Okay. They're on Camel tonight.
Yeah.
So promoting that.
Does that mean the boys? Oh no, he's got Novocaine, right?
Yeah, Novocaine.
Damn it.
Yes, Novocaine for.
Although Novocaine looks good.
John Mulaney's doing a. Novocaine does look good.
Yeah.
He's starting a late night show that's going to be on Netflix at 10 p.m. every Wednesday.
If it's like the thing he did during the comedy festival last year,
It feels like it's different.
It needs to be like.
Although they haven't really done a whole lot of rollout. Like they haven't showed like clips or anything. Like I guess because it's going to be live. But
I know
they haven't announced who the guests are yet.
What was the special he did? Like the Sack Lunch Bunch.
Yeah.
And
it
like
was,
he's just
I forget what it was
he's
called.
trying to do that really as like a late night show where it's just like he just wants it to be delightfully weird, but too much. Like it was too weird. It was. I know that like late night TV is probably like it's over. Like Letterman was to me the one. I'll still watch like when Jon Stewart hosts the Daily Show. I'll watch that, but I'm not gonna watch the rest of the week. I watch John Oliver. I'll watch. I think if there's anything else late night that I would watch.
Sometimes Conan. I don't know. I'm not watching Conan live.
But does he even do a show anymore?
Not really.
Yeah. I think he just does specials, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. But they're just not good. And I get that like Mulaney's trying to do something. He was trying to do something like wildly different. It just doesn't demand. It's tough, man. I feel for him. Like I really do feel for him.
Well, Jimmy Fallon's pulling you back in because he's got the winners of The Traitors on tonight.
Oh hell yeah!
Along with Gal Gadot.
And they of course
Is
are
it Gal Gadot or
I think it's whatever. But they're obviously on to promote John Mulaney's late.
Oh,
night
the Traitors
show.
are the Traitors winners are.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
That's what they're there.
Interesting. Got it.
Thanks today to Luke Jackson. Thanks to Jeremy. Thanks to Chris Broussard and to Buster Olney. We'll get all of it up in the greatest hits section of the
Can You Take Me Higher
tab at GlennClarkRadio.com. Patrick tomorrow.
Yes. Stuff and things.
Oh boy.
Sure, we'll be talking. Yeah, stuff and things.
Thanks everybody at PressBox. All of our great sponsors and partners, including Live Casino and Hotel, Cruise Maryland, Crown Trophy, Easy Pass, HelpMyGamblingProblem.org, Casa Sin, MSAA, Maryland Sports, your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com. Thanks to Griffin at Griffin_Bass. Follow us, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Glenn Clark Radio. Have a great Monday evening. Go Towson. Dukes up.